We have to do to open.
Dive.
Bang
Is
his
there
gavel.
a
don't
diving conservation department?
Let's go.
We have a motion open, and
I
then
think we need
a
a
motion to
motion
approve
open.
the agenda, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, a motion to open the meeting for May 7th and to accept the agenda as written.
I believe,
As modified.
as modified, we have to amend to include a certificate of compliance for Lot 3 Old Oaken Bucket Road. Any other additions?
So
That's the only
we
other
have a
thing.
second on the motion.
Have a second. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second.
Oh, thank goodness. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Pat, do you want to go into the report now, or do you want to go right into the RDA?
I think we should probably go right into the Public Works RDA.
On May 7th, 2014, at their 6:15 meeting at the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of the Town of Scituate DPW for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaw to remove and replace a section of breached seawall on property located at 110 Oceanside Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Members of the commission. My name is Sean McCarthy with the Scituate Engineering Department, Department of Public Works. We did lose a approximately 70-foot cap section of seawall at 110 Oceanside Drive. It fell landward, so it's in the backyard now. Our proposal basically is I don't want to call it a temporary repair because it's permanent, but I'll get into that. To remove what's loose, concrete, dowel in, rebar, reform the cap, and match what was existing prior to the breach. We're currently submitting a grant for a larger section of that seawall in that same area to replace the complete wall from footing to top with a 2-foot higher elevation than exists now. So I don't want to call it temporary in case that grant doesn't come through. It may remain permanent for longer
Right.
than we'd like it to. It is private, so we're in the process of obtaining an easement 10 feet on either side of the wall. That will remain permanent, as well as ownership under the wall, which will be the case. You'll be hearing more and more of that as we do pursue repairs along the seawalls throughout town. But this evening, it's a repair at the 110 to repair this breach section of seawall.
Pat?
I was just wondering, is this from this winter, Sean, this damage, or was that?
It had started, I think, 2 winters ago, and smaller sections had fallen out, and then this larger section had fallen out. As you walk that area, you can see it's going to be more common. I think the wall is reaching its life expectancy.
No questions?
Yes. Is this, at this moment, is this the only part of the wall in this area that has been breached? The logical
I
question
guess-
would be, why are we choosing to repair this piece of the wall and no others?
Well, the homeowner is willing to offer up the property on either side of the wall, which will make it public. That eases one subject. There are other areas in this area, not so large, more of a crumbling, cracking of the wall, not quite such a large section as this that fell right off the top of it, basically, nice and cleanly. Remained in one long piece, as you can see in the photo, yeah.
So the kind of answer to someone who would ask, why are we using town funds to repair a seawall that's on someone's private property, would be, in addition to public safety, et cetera, would be that they are willing or going to make this particular area public.
Correct.
The correct answer would be talk to Sean.
Yeah. Excellent, okay, great.
So,
Sean,
Sean, when you say the area public, is that, you mean the beach frontage in front of the seawall is what they're offering to make public?
The permanent easement, currently being reviewed by town council, and there's a lot of legal logistics to this as well. The easement will remain 10 feet landward permanent, and then from the base of the wall to the mean low water would become public, as it is in most areas at the mean low water mark throughout town.
It's already public, isn't it? Wouldn't the beach part to the mean low water already?
Not
be?
necessarily.
No, there's some properties that if you look at a lot of the beaches, there's all kinds of different
And the
plot
deeds
plans, yeah.
even reference the distance to mean low.
Okay, so Sean, is he literally gifting this to the town?
Correct.
Okay, so I have another question. So the seawall in this section belongs to the homeowner? Or does it seawall belong to the town?
It's going back and forth because
It's so different,
it is, and it's throughout town, and in some areas of town, easements were obtained in the 50s and the 40s when they started the construction of these. Some people believe that they're prescriptive and their ownership of ours anyways, because they were built with public funds in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Repairs have been made in the past, and now it's becoming a little more legal, I believe, in security, to go and, like you referenced, spending public money on private property.
right. So, just because we're always being asked so many questions, so if the homeowner to the left and to the right of subject property requested to have repair of the seawall of the town, would the town,
Same
Fix it for
process
them?
would be followed, no. They'd be approached, and taking the property or gifting of the property would be necessary for us to spend money and repair it. And ultimately, if this larger grant comes through the state, that'll be the next step for us in that area. That's why I say this may be temporary. This may come out from top to bottom in 3 years, and 600 feet may be replaced.
okay.
But we'll also need to obtain the easements from all those people as well, if their properties extend past the wall.
Right, because I mean, this easement connects property to property, so what work is done with one would impact the others, but because these particular people gifted an easement to the town is then willing to repair the seawall, but without that concession. And that applies to all properties that the town would maintain?
No,
Seawalls
every
with?
case is different. There's no magic answer to anything
No,
we
I'm
ever
just
do here.
asking
Yeah, yeah,
as an
no, so it'd be case by
educational.
case, yeah.
Right.
And it's an extensive process, yeah, deed by deed, property by property, throughout town. The guy next door may not own the wall. His property may fall short. It may be on public land already.
Is there some resource to find out, because that seems to be another question we keep asking. Is there some place to go to see, does a homeowner own the seawall? Does the town own the seawall?
There are quite a few plans that have been prepared, both individually by lot owners, plot plans by local land surveyors, show the boundaries and limits of the lot and show where the seawall happens to fall. Sometimes it's inside the lot, sometimes it's the northern boundary of the lot.
Did the FEMA study make those distinctions?
I don't believe they
it?
did.
No.
The DCR is a very useful resource to us. They do have plans of record. Sometimes they're difficult to get your hands on. So it takes a while to look at each piece of property. It's an extensive deed research and title search, yeah.
So once the town agrees to maintain the seawall through this offering of the easement, does that mean that from this point forward, then it will always maintain it?
Perpetual, yes.
Okay.
Pat, from a standpoint of strictly the conservation, are there any questions?
No, unless the commission members have any.
No. That's really our concern. What do we want to do?
We could close and issue a -3 determination of applicability, if you make that motion.
I make motion to close with a determination of a -3.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sean, before you leave, can we possibly ask you to jump right in? You've got a small informal item on about a metal shed. Is
Oh,
that-
sure, at the Highway
Yep.
Department on
Yep.
68 Captain Pierce.
Yep.
They're looking to build a small garage for the Vector truck that the sewer department uses. They use it to clean catch basins, clear drain lines, clear sewer lines. They want to get that into a building. Not sure on the exact size yet, 24 by 18 maybe, kind of like the half dome. I'm not sure if it'd be on block. This is still in the works.
Is this in any kind of wetlands?
No, it would be on existing pavement at the highway department. The location hasn't been pinned down yet, as well as the size of the building. That's in the works. We are in the process of also ordering a storm scepter to be installed in the pavement by the, where the petroleum and diesel pumps are there, to catch the stormwater there that now currently sheets into the marsh to the rear. We're gonna do a little regrading in that area and pitch it to a storm scepter, so we'll get some, not only additional sediment treatment out of it, but any of the floatables, the gas that happens to spill, will stay within that storm scepter. If there was a spill, I think they'll hold up to 250 gallons of floatables, so that can be
Do we need
stored
an
and
RDA
pumped.
on this, or do we just need to be consulted and
That-
shown a diagram and?
Yeah, eventually we'll need a permit application. The original building and the grading for the parking area was all within our jurisdiction, so they filed. But as Sean was saying, they're willing to make some improvements to
Yeah.
the site and put a storm scepter would be a big help
Yep.
out there.
Yeah, I agree.
And, I think at the time when they determine where the building's gonna go, then we can go out, take a look and stake it off, so.
So I guess that would really be, unless, does anybody else have any questions for now? This was just informal to get an idea what they needed to do.
Mhm, yeah, it's in the works.
Okay.
Still, I don't
Perfect.
mind coming back to update you as things solidify.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Sean.
Sean, nice to meet you. Take care.
Thanks, Pat.
Is,
We could do the Clap Road porch RDA if you'd like to do that. I think it would be very good.
Sure. so, that was, on May 7th, 2014, during the 6:15 meeting at Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of David Howe for a determination of the applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaw to build a 12-foot by 14-foot deck on property located at 92 Clap Road, Scituate. Butters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Do we have someone here for this?
Yes.
Want to come up and tell us about it, please?
Mr. Hart was out of town, so I'm the builder.
And you are?
Steve, Bryant.
Steve. How are you tonight, Steve?
I'm well, how you doing?
Good, thanks. What's up?
We're just adding, we're doing a screen porch, and then they wanted to put a 12 by 14 deck attached to it.
Do we have any drawings, any sketches, any plans?
We do.
This is Clap Road, here's the house, this is an existing deck that's getting closed in as a porch, and there's where they're talking about.
Are we in the wetlands?
It's 50 feet from the bordering vegetated wetland, and and it was gonna be on sonotubes,
Yes.
and it looked like, wouldn't pose any impact on the wetlands. But since I spoke with you today, there's an outstanding order of conditions on this property. So, I mean, Usually they'll come in and get a certificate of compliance and go through that step first, because there were some requirements under the original order with, it's like a post and rail fence and, some plantings, and it's not clear whether that's been completed yet, but, so that would be something. Was this the owner when the original order conditions came in, or?
I didn't even know there were any.
Okay, yeah, we have.
Yeah, you can't approve one project when you
While the
finish
other
the
one's
last
still
one,
open,
right?
yeah,
What
right,
would-
yeah,
I
right.
mean, do you have questions about this particular proposal?
This is where.
Well, we can't close it.
No, it's away from the wetland, it's a lawn area. I don't personally see this as a big issue, except that until the other orders are done.
Close the other.
Yeah,
So we'll give
So
some
he's
specific
gonna close out
instructions.
the
Did you want to see
order.
Lisa?
Existing
So if
order
it's-
before we can-
that's why we have those file them on the deed, so you can't sell them property, you can't do anything, because people can let them off
I don't think they are.
and just ignore them until they need something.
Alright, so the original order called for, here's the house, okay, there's a split rail fence, where these little circles are.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were plantings, listed, high bush blueberries,
Yep.
so. And these may not be the owners that were there when this was agreed to, but,
But it
so
still
they
has
filed
to-
on that.
still
yeah.
Then they got a bad attorney if they bought a property
Right,
with
right.
it.
And they could have been,
Yeah.
they could have been there just in
Yeah.
time, but.
That's the
I mean,
owner,
this is
owner and
not a
applicant.
Significant project as far as the wetland, and this is an outstanding thing that could be closed out with a certificate of compliance, you know, they can do that.
Right. So,
So could we say that,
go ahead.
no, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I don't want to jump the gun on you.
Well, I said, could we say that this will, Pat, could we say that this would be okay if that gets completed?
Could do that, yeah, they'd have to,
But they still have to come back to get it closed.
there's a fee, a certificate of compliance visit and a fee that would be imposed, but yeah, I mean, I
So we
think,
could continue this then, right?
yeah, oh, yeah,
The
yeah,
RDA.
yeah,
Until this stuff's done.
Yeah.
Signed
do
off.
that.
So, we,
So, now, back
so
to you.
what you need to go back and tell your client is that things look pretty good for this, but we have to continue it. We can't close it and give permission until the existing order of conditions is complied with and signed off. Okay, and they will want to call the office, the conservation office, to take care of that. So it shouldn't be an issue, but we got to do one thing before we can do the other.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, so
So we need a
we
motion to
have to
continue.
move, yeah, move to continue the,
And you can't probably answer this, but, I mean, we can continue it to 2 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now.
If they gotta put up a fence and plantings, I'd probably say 4. wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that sounds more
minimum.
reasonable.
So,
Yeah.
Lisa, you want to put it down for 2
So
meetings from
June
now?
4th?
Continue it to
your
June
calendar,
4th.
your
Yeah, you're the
calendar
calendar
woman.
lady.
Yeah,
June
because the
4th.
next meeting is May 21st, the
Right.
one after that is June 4th.
June 4th at what time? Okay, June 4th.
Sounds good.
Okay, I need a motion, though, to,
Motion to continue the Clap Road hearing until June 4th.
Second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
we appreciate you passing along the message.
And we're scheduled for the 4th. I think, oh, never mind, the 21st. We have the school people are coming in at 7, I think, for an informal. No, this month, 21st.
Oh, okay.
And it's gonna be, probably about a half hour at 7 o'clock. If we don't already have some.
Oh, we already have a 7 o'clock.
All right,
Yeah,
Nate.
7:20?
7.
That's
Okay.
it in there still?
No, this is, the town school department.
Oh, okay.
We're supposed to have, Callum?
Yep, so,
Sue, how are you tonight?
I'm very well, thank you. Here, you want to give me some people?
Good.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Just so everybody can be clued in, Sue McCallum is here from Mass Audubon, and she's going to give us a brief talk relative to plovers.
Piping plovers and least terns.
Please go.
So like you said, Sue McCallum, I'm the Sanctuary Director for Mass Audubon on the South Shore, based in Marshfield. And we monitor the piping plovers and least terns on, at the Glades, Third Cliff, Fourth Cliff, and Hummerock, as well as Wrexham and Duxbury Beach. And I thought I would just do a really quick, tiny bit of background information on each of these species, sort of why we're doing this, and then what's going on with, on Third Cliff this year. And then answer any questions. Does that sound?
Thank you.
Sound
That's
good?
Really good.
So piping plovers are little tiny birds that are well camouflaged that are protected under the Massachusetts and the Federal Endangered Species Acts. Least terns are species of special concern in Massachusetts, so under the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act. So both of them are offered protection under this, and there's some expectations by the federal and the state governments, natural heritage and fisheries and wildlife for individuals, towns, beach owners, municipalities, whatever. I gave you a little bit of information that outlines sort of piping plover natural history, as well as the tern natural history, which is on this sheet. Talks a little bit about, and you can see sort of what a piping plover looks like and what a least tern looks like, just in case you're not familiar.
Sue, excuse me, do you have extras that?
I don't have a lot.
Okay.
No, I've got a
I
couple,
do.
there might be a couple extra up
I
there,
do.
but, yeah. I
Put
didn't
them on the
make,
table if somebody wants to
I
come
don't
up
have
and-
any turns.
The
Oh,
turn's
they're
on the
other
back.
side.
Yeah, the turn's
Okay.
on the back.
So turn it over.
yes, we're a conservation organization, you know, we use both sides here.
Got it.
Thank you, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. So piping plovers are back on the beaches. They arrive in late March. And by federal standards, we need to have any fencing and signage up by April 1st, is the expectation. So they arrive late March, they're just starting to nest now, and staking out their territories, pairing up, making their nests. They're coming up back here from mostly the Caribbean. And then the least terns are just in the last week starting to show up. They're a little bit later, they nest a little bit later. They use Third and Fourth Cliff quite extensively and the mouth of the North River for foraging, for feeding. One main difference between the two of them is the piping plover chicks when they hatch. And there's a picture of the little chicks up here, which are pretty darn cute.
Couldn't be any cuter.
They are what they call precocial, so they're running around within an hour after they hatch. And they go out and they feed themselves. So people on the beach will see the chicks independent from the adults. Whereas the tern chicks are very dependent still on their parents. They are still precocial, but the parents are going out and getting food for them and bringing it back to them. So it's a little bit different. The photos sort of show the eggs, also how camouflaged the chicks are. And one of the reasons that they do need our protection is that we have basically built on almost all of their beaches, but also they're very camouflaged, and so they're very easy to step on. You know, or dogs chase the chicks, chase the adults. And people just inadvertently walk where there's nests, and they're very easy to step on. On Third Cliff this year, there are currently 2 pairs of piping plovers. Right now, the high over the years has been all the way up to 5. Last year, there were 2 pairs, and they had 6 chicks, 5 of which fledged or flew, were old enough to fly by the end of the season. This year, we have 2 pairs, and 1 pair is nesting so far. It has 2 eggs in the nest, and they'll usually have 4 eggs by the time they're done. Least terns, like I said, are just starting to arrive. And there's a couple of least terns on Third Cliff and Fourth Cliff right now. Fourth Cliff actually has 1 piping plover pair this year, and it had 1 last year. That was very successful. What do we do? So at the beginning of the season, we speak with Patrick and Patricia, the town administrator, come to an agreement as far as a contract for the upcoming year. And once we've agreed on the contract, by April 1st, we're out there putting up our fencing and our signage. If you go to the Spit, you've, I'm sure, seen it. And then we have a coastal biologist who's hired for the season, who's out there usually 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week for the whole season until the chicks are gone. And they're adjusting the fencing all season long. We start out sort of big, and then once the the nests are established, we try to move it in as much as we can. Federal guidelines are that the fencing has to be at least 50 feet out from where the nest site is.
Can I clarify something?
Sure.
You have a contract with the town
Yes,
for what?
for monitoring. For the season.
So the town hires the biologist and,
They contract with Mass Audubon
okay.
to fulfill the
Alright.
monitoring
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
obligations.
Thank you.
That's fine. So we basically supply all the materials and the biologist. We go out and do the monitoring, like I said, 2 or 3 times a week, check the fencing, repair the fencing, and also talk to people that are out there whenever we can. And there's a state and a federal report that needs to be done during a certain period every year in June that we complete and submit on behalf of the town. And then at the end of the year, submit a report that sort of is a summary with the map, and the map from last year is there. And submit that to the state, the federal government, as well as to Patrick and to Patricia.
What type of ideal nesting situation do these birds look for?
They're looking for sort of sandy cobble with some grass, beach grass around. I mean, the end of the spit is probably, the very, very end is too sandy. Sort of that sort of dune area is really perfect for them.
Do they always come back to the same area, or is it a different area?
They usually come back to the same
General.
same general area.
So wherever this fence is going to be erected, chances are it's going to be in the same vicinity that it was last year and.
Typically. I mean, the spit is unique, and the area, most of the areas that they nest in are unique because they're so changeable,
Tidal,
depending
yeah,
on
right, yep.
winter storms, that kind of thing. So it does change a bit every year. And from the birds' perspective, you know, third cliff and fourth cliff are really one space for them. They don't really distinguish between which side of the river they're on. Yeah.
Sue, what's the prognosis?
For the population as a whole, the population up and down the Atlantic seacoast is steady. They were hit very hard by Hurricane Sandy. A lot of the habitat, especially in New Jersey, New York, was really damaged over the last couple of years and hasn't really come back yet. In Massachusetts, the population has increased slightly, but it's really a roller coaster. I mean, we get one bad storm in June, and it wipes out all the nests. Something I should mention is the piping plovers on the spit last year. They're very persistent birds. They come, they try one time, they put their 4 eggs in their nest. For example, last year, a skunk came down, ate all 8 eggs. They wait a couple weeks, they'll nest again. They got eaten again. They wait a few weeks, they nest again. So, I mean, they're putting a lot of energy every time they're making a new nest, staking out a territory, you know, trying again. The skunk, something happened to it. I don't know exactly what, in mid-July. I don't know if it got hit by a car or exactly what, but it wasn't seen on the beach again. And so those third nests were successful. You know, other years, some of them will nest a little bit too low. We get a big storm.
And they wash away.
And they wash away. They wait a few weeks. They'll start over again.
So if they don't wash away and they're successful, would they still nest a second and third
No.
time? Okay.
No, they don't have the energy to, you know, to do that whole tending of the young
Interesting.
several times. The least tern colony last year, least terns are very, I don't know how to, shy, flighty. You know, they get disturbed very easily. And so, you know, if people come too close, if a dog runs through a colony once or twice, they'll just abandon. They'll leave their nests eggs on the ground and just abandon. The skunk last year, I think, really disturbed them. and most of them moved over to Fourth Cliff and nested again on Fourth Cliff, and were successful,
Excellent.
so,
Questions, Bill?
No?
No.
Questions?
no.
I just had one comment about
Sure.
the involvement of Mike Stewart and the police department.
they've been
and Mark
fabulous.
Patterson
I should have
from
mentioned that.
Harbaston. They're all involved in a contract too.
Terrific.
So,
Yeah. Mark has been great as far as, we used to always carry our metal posts all the way out from the road, all the way down, which was pretty horrible. So now he actually has helped us make arrangements for boat transportation. So we can, offload right at the tip there with all of that equipment. So we have to, take it all out in the spring, and then in the fall, pick it all up and take it back again. That's been great, and the chief has been really good as far as working with us when we've had disturbances, fireworks, drinking, large groups of kids. The real challenges out there are loose dogs and early spring, early summer rowdiness are the challenges.
If we were interested in maybe spending a day or seeing the coastal biologist do his thing, could we get in touch with you
Yep,
to
Yep,
have that
I'd be
happen?
happy to- yeah.
That'd be great.
I'd be happy to go out with whoever wants to go out. I could make
Super.
arrangements for Megan or myself could go out and
That'd be
sort of
great.
show you around, bring a
Sure.
pair of binoculars around, and you could see for yourself what's going on.
I know.
Because it would be nice
That'd
to
be
be able
fun.
to, if we could identify something and be able to call and say, geez, we think this is a
Yeah.
a nest to be protected.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to really get a few more sort of volunteer eyes and ears out there to let us know what's going on. We can't be out there all the time. And so when the fence is cut or the fence comes down, to have somebody give us a call so we can get out there and repair it quickly. If they see birds outside of the nest, outside of the fencing area and the fence needs to be moved,
Right.
that kind of thing would be really, really, really helpful. I do have one question. The boardwalk has been repaired, which is a wonderful thing.
That's
Um,
Third Cliff Association.
Yeah, the Rivermore Association. Do you know anything about the signs, though? I haven't seen the signs go back up.
No,
Is
They
anyone-
were looking for them. I knew they
Yeah.
couldn't locate them, so.
It would be wonderful to have them up before Memorial Day weekend, which is early this year, unfortunately. So,
Rosemary.
Rosemary?
I have a question. It's
Yep.
my understanding that we still have a coyote roaming around Fourth Cliff.
we may.
We
We have a
have-
snowy owl out there still.
Yes, it was in my yard the other day.
You know,
And a
it's fun.
fox.
Is the fencing capable of keeping it?
No.
I don't think so.
No, the fencing is basically what we call symbolic fencing. It's just a stake with roping on it, with some signage, and the idea is that people will read it and hopefully stay out of the restricted area. It doesn't do anything as far as keeping dogs out, coyotes, fox.
Fox.
Clever as they are, they
We have fox too.
Yeah.
Foxes.
It's definitely Fox on Third
Yeah.
Cliff too.
No, it doesn't do anything for that. There are methods for dealing with that, but I basically put up electric fencing, solar electric fencing, but it requires, federal and state requirements mean that somebody has to be out there daily to monitor that. And the contract that we have with the town just doesn't allow that. We just don't have the funding for that. So, I mean, as it is, I think we put in about 140 hours over the season, and that's not including supervision by myself or by the Coastal Water Bird Program Director within Mass Audubon. So it's
Hopefully this
a lot of hours.
You need some good fortune, too.
Yes, yeah, and a lot of it is just weather.
Steve?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, do they still have the one-day program down the Cape?
They have a one-day training. It's not meant to be it's for our staff, and we do invite some local beach owners to it. Is that what you're talking about? It's not meant to be now you're qualified to be a biologist kind of person. It's a program. It's an introductory, if any of you are interested, you could certainly go. It's a nice introduction to what the regulations are, what's necessary for protection, information about the natural history of the birds. But it's not now you're qualified to be a biologist in the state's or the federal government's eyes.
I had mentioned that kind of for Lisa when you were talking about whether you can find the nests. It's actually a really good program. I did take it a few years ago. And it does teach you quite a bit about how to look for the nests and to actually find the birds that you otherwise just walk right by them and wouldn't notice at all. But you become a lot more aware of it if you take it. It's actually a pretty good program.
Yeah.
And it's not even really a whole day. It goes till maybe 1 in the afternoon or something like that.
It talks about, it's really for our trainees, our summer staff. So we have, for example, I have a lead biologist who has a master's degree and has 2 years' experience in this field. And then we have interns or field assistant ones. And it's an introductory program for them to get them started for the summer. But then they're closely supervised every day by, sort of the master biologist is the one who's sort of carrying out in the field training. But it gets them started.
This sounds helpful.
Yeah.
Susan, thank you so much for coming in.
You're very
Does anybody
welcome.
else have any other questions before we let it go?
No?
We really appreciate you coming. It's very helpful.
Thank you for the
Let's see if
invitation.
we can help.
Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Are we ready to go with the drink waters for Barry's Landing? On May 7th, 2014, at 6:45 PM in the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, Section 30700 of the Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, regarding the application of David and Mary Ellen Drinkwater to build a detached two-story garage and driveway, including grading, stone wall, and landscaping on the property located at 7 Barry's Landing, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening, Mr. Morse.
Good evening.
Good evening. Again, for the record, my name is Gregory Morse, Morse Engineering. I'm a registered engineer representing David and Mary Ellen Drinkwater, who are here with us tonight. They're the property owner, the applicant with this proposal. The project that we're here for is proposed construction of a detached garage, an access driveway to it, and some additional landscaping, primarily a landscaped wall and a patio at their residence at number 7 Barry's Lane, or Barry's Landing. The plan that I've submitted to you here shows the property line in bold, Neilgate Street, at the top of the plan, Barry's Landing, along the left side. It's bordered on either side by residentially zoned property, and it's bordered to the south by the North River. See the outline of the existing house here. The existing house is accessed from a driveway, as shown here, out to Neilgate Street. The resource areas on this site, we have in blue the top of the bank associated with the North River. That was as determined by the North River Commission. We have in magenta the bordering land subject to flooding, which is the floodplain at elevation 9. Determined by on-the-ground survey. And then off of those resources, we have the 50-foot no-disturb zone per the bylaw shown in red, and the 100-foot buffer zone shown in green on the plan. This plan is substantially similar to a plan that the Commission previously approved in 2008. That project was never commenced, and we have made some changes to that plan since that time, hence the new filing. The detached garage, you'll notice, is located entirely outside the 100-foot buffer zone. We did not include it in our filing as such, as it's outside the buffer. But specifically what is inside the buffer, what brings us here, is the extension of the driveway to the garage, the regrading of the backyard with a proposed patio, the proposed landscape wall, and then the removal of some of the vegetation in the backyard. There's some brush over here in this area. You can see the brush line that we're pushing back, as well as there's a series of 6 cedar trees. We were looking to remove the cedar trees, leaving the one closest to the river. I'm going to show you some pictures of the site so you can get a better handle on it. These pictures are adjacent to the existing house. This is the edge of the existing house. Looking out toward the river, you can see the 6 cedar trees that are growing in the backyard at the current location. You see them again in this picture below it, looking from the river up toward the house. The reason why we're asking to take the trees down, the 2 that are closest to the house are in the location of the proposed driveway. The 3rd one out, the middle tree, is the thinnest tree here. You'll see in this picture, it's in relatively poor condition. It's being strangled, I would say, by the overgrowth of the trees surrounding it. And then these 2 trees out here, trees 3, 4, 5, and 6, what you'll notice is that in the past there was significant vine growth on those trees. In the tops of the trees here, the vines have all been removed, but the tops of the trees have significant dead growth, kind of creating a hole in that location. So that's the location looking toward the river from the right side of the house and looking back up toward the house. This picture is the location of the proposed garage. The proposed garage is going over in this area here. And then this picture here, this is the picture of the top of bank. You'll see along the top of bank, it's been kind of grown in with all sorts of vines and weeds. There's a stone wall underneath this vegetation and bramble here. So flipping back to the plan, the driveway itself, it's located beyond the 75-foot buffer. It's 85 feet from the top of bank to the edge of the driveway. The driveway we're proposing is pervious asphalt, so any rainwater hits it, it will be able to infiltrate into the driveway. The patio is located 60 feet from the top of bank. The patio, again, will be a pervious patio, either a patio stone or a patio block pervious. And then the retaining wall, this would be a landscape wall, 2.5 feet high in height. And what you'll notice is right now the backyard slopes from the back of the house at elevation 18 down to the river at approximately elevation 8. So there's a significant grade on this yard. The purpose of the wall was to provide a flat leveling area where we could have a patio and you could have a little bit of a flat lawn surface. It's in keeping, in tune with the surrounding neighbors. I think you can see in some of the adjacent pictures, the house to the left, for example, you know, they've constructed a wall of similar characteristics on that side to create a little bit of a terrace effect, to create a little bit of a flatter yard surface. And so that retaining wall in these pictures, you know, would be running across here. It's through the middle of the existing lawn surface. All of the work is outside the buffer zone. There's no filling of wetland resource area. There's no impacts to the floodplain with the project. We would ask that the commission order an order of conditions permitting the project as it did previously in 2008.
Pat?
Well, this is the type of project that, it does fall within a resource area. It's the River Protection Act, but the jurisdiction of the North River Commission overrides that. But it is a resource area that the work is going to be taking place. Usually on these, we work in conjunction with the North River Commission. They have different things that they look at for protecting the river. They also have some visual requirements, you know, what type of trees can be taken out, what kind of heights, what kind of widths to building. So we walked it the other day with a couple of commission members and with Judy from the North River Commission, and we spoke with her about different things. She was talking about, you know, the visuals and the width of the garage. For our jurisdiction, it would be the driveway within the 100 feet
Is there a reason that it would need to be asphalt-based pervious? Could there be, we're trying to keep as many petroleum products out of the resource areas. I mean, we haven't seen the specs on it, but I mean, is there something that could be substituted as?
The practicality of a softer surface like gravel or stone dust would make it very difficult to try to deal with plowing in the wintertime. The grade as the driveway comes down and wraps around the
Right,
property
yeah.
is such that I think that the asphalt with the perviousness to it would make the most sense. When we came before the commission a number of years ago with our plan, that was what was recommended that we think about using, because it was something that would work in that kind of area.
Right, no, I think.
Aesthetically, I would
yeah.
rather have something else, but the
Right.
practicality of the something else, just from a plow point of view, is difficult.
Well, I don't think I was saying not a pervious paver, but maybe not an asphalt-based one. If there was, concrete, stone, some of these other types of, they're pavers and they can be plowed,
Yeah,
but they're not.
after a couple
it's
of
not-
years with a plow hitting it in the wintertime, trying to push things around, I just think that it would not make a lot of practical sense. We'd be doing it probably every couple of years in order to keep it from, the plow blade from getting stuck in it.
Some of the other things, I mean, the tree, we're trying to keep as much vegetation close to rivers and to the banks of rivers as possible. And, if you have a damaged tree that could fall or hurt a product, your property, that's one thing. But it really is kind of clear cutting this area and putting in patio where there were trees and driveway where there were trees. And, our goal is to put more vegetation into these areas rather than less.
Right, well, the driveway itself, if you understood the contour of this property, the way it's shaped, it has a lot of constraints. So the choice of putting the garage where it is, for all practical purposes, is really the only place we can place the garage. And we can't get to it coming around the front of the house to that location because of the way the grade is and the proximity to the neighbor's property. So our only choice to place a practical garage is adjacent to the house. There's a big change in topography between where the house is and the upper part of the yard.
Well, yeah, we've been out there.
Placing it way up on the hill is, it defeats really the purpose of what we want the garage to be able to do.
Are there proposed plantings that could, maybe soften the blow of taking down the cedars that are out there?
Sure. So, Pat brings up a couple of things. This project, because it is within 300 feet of the North River, is subject to the North River Commission's jurisdiction. We have filed with them, and we're on their agenda for May 22nd. They primarily look at the visual impacts of a project, looking at the visual impacts as it's seen from the river. As such, they are going to be very critical of our vegetation removal. They are going to be very critical of any plantings that we are proposing. They had previously approved removal of some of the cedar trees during that 2008 filing. They had not approved the removal of all 6 that we are asking for. Since that time, we think with some of the dead growth that has developed on those trees, we are hoping that they will re-look at that. We expect that they're going to ask for some additional plantings. The additional plantings I would expect to be inside the 100-foot buffer zone, but we have not discussed that with them yet. We don't know what they're going to be asking for. All I can say in your jurisdiction is that all of the trees to be removed are outside of the buffer zones. They will be replaced with some sort of vegetation as determined by the North River Commission. We just have not gotten to that point yet.
I had a question about bringing the fill out to the wall. What would be the material there? Is it
Just gravel fill,
gravel with loam?
common fill with
and
loam
grass
top,
lawn?
yes. Aside from the patio.
I know North River Commission has some question too if you're putting anything within the 100. They're looking for an untouched 100, so I don't know if that patio is gonna be an issue for them.
No.
Because we've dealt with them on a few other ones, they were pretty strict on the 100 to the river.
Yeah.
When this was previously approved, did they approve the removal of the 3 cedars for where you want the driveway, but not the additional? Is there a chance that you could just remove the 3 cedars for the driveway, but allow the others to stay, seeing they have been established there for some time. And maybe with the removal of the other three, it will help them fill out a little more.
Well, I'm going to tie into that question a little bit. Does the patio have to go where the trees are? Is that the only location that that could go? Because it seems to me that would be, if it were slightly to the left, if you're looking at the river, is there some possibility that that could be moved some? And that ties into her question as to,
Right, if with the yard, it's pretty much the same from facing the river, from the left of the proposed patio forward, and if it was just shifted over a little bit, it could preserve the cedars yet, and then have the other ones removed for the driveway as a compromise.
I guess what you're hearing, and you're hearing also, is there is a concern, that we have throughout the town of trying not to take unnecessary, reasonably healthy vegetation where it's not absolutely required. And if there's a way around it that we can work with you, if there's a way around it that you're willing to do some mitigation, we'll try to work with you. And yes, we have to tie it in with the North River, which we knew. But that would be one thing that struck me when I was out there the other day, is why do all of those trees have to go? Frankly, they look pretty nice. I wish I had them. But, so that's something I would offer up, and I'm jumping in ahead of Bill, if you had some comments.
I'm looking it up, but I'm a little bit confused, for a change. The work is being done in a resource area, but it's not in our jurisdiction, so what is the distinction here?
Right.
So are we going from top of the river,
Yeah.
bank back?
You extend 100 feet from the top of the bank.
Right.
For the river.
But under the definition of riverfront, it's 200 feet of jurisdiction is called riverfront area. But we're overridden by the North River Commission Scenic Rivers Law, which goes out to 300 feet, but doesn't provide the same protections as we do for a normal river and 200 feet. So it is confusing.
Little wonder I'm confused.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's the only river in the
We have to
state.
work together.
Hold on, Stephen.
Yeah. It's the only river in the state that has
Okay,
it.
so, for the slow ones in the group, we're still restricted to the 100 in our jurisdiction, in this particular,
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
okay. Thank
Yes.
you.
But one other thing too is whenever we can, we're trying to reduce lawn near resource areas. Lawn has fertilizer and all sorts of other stuff in it. And it's pretty close to the river there, and, you know, sometimes they say, yeah, it could really make the project a lot more friendly to the environment by removing some lawn too.
I do have one more question. So we talked about the patio being 60 feet, the driveway being 85 feet. How far is the wall? That's immediately on, adjacent
There's a wall
to
there
the...
already, isn't there?
There's a new wall going up.
There's an old stone wall along the top of the coastal bank.
Yes.
This is the proposed wall. The proposed wall is 52 feet from the top of coastal bank. Right now, it is essentially lawn from the coastal bank all the way up to the house. So if you look,
So it's not in the same location.
No, I get that.
no, it's not
I
the same
didn't pick
location.
that up.
It's the proposed wall. There were the tree that's, the cedar tree that's closest to the river in this location, the ones along the lot line, which are cedar trees, this cedar tree. These are all proposed to stay. All the ones that are within 50 feet are certainly proposed to stay. It's the ones that are out here that we're looking to be removed. And I think as we develop our discussion with the North River Commission, what I expect is they will be looking visually at the project that, you know, this bramble here along the edge, they may ask us to plant some sort of saltwater tolerant plantings along the edge of the lawn down here at this lower level. You certainly will be getting, when this project is done, additional plantings on the site. Maybe we could, entertain a condition to include replacement of some of the cedar trees, you know, in ulterior locations. The patio location, it probably is subject to move a little bit. I believe one of the primary reasons why we had this location was to catch a view down the river without impacting any of this tree line over here. You know, the further we're putting the patio this way, the less view we're getting down the river. So by altering it out here, we're getting a much better view.
When you say the view, you're actually looking back towards 3A when you're talking
You're
about that
looking,
view?
yeah, you're looking out this way. down the
Towards,
river.
to where the bridge is.
Towards the bridge,
Yeah.
correct.
You have a question?
Well, he answered the big one about where that wall was gonna go, and that's lawn now, you said. How much fill you think you're gonna need there?
At that location, it's 2 feet of fill, and it tapers to 0 feet up by the house. So I haven't run a cut and fill analysis on it, but 200 yards, plus or minus.
So from that wall will be graded all the way back to the house pretty much?
Correct. It provides a flat terrace lawn area, and it provides for a flat area where the driveway will be.
Let me ask just a separate question, that's just something I noticed. I noticed that there are several rubber pipes that run under the ground and drain into the yard, not only your own property, but from the neighbors, is that true? Does that get changed at all in this?
Those pipes would still extend into the yard.
And drain down to the river?
They drain down to the river. Those are typically the roof leaders from the house, the gutters.
A couple of them actually take care of the retaining wall along the side of the driveway to catch the runoff there. We directed them sort of around and into that area where the trees are. They seem to do a good job. I think the drain would have to remain in some ways to keep that runoff from happening. Can I, if I just can answer the question that you had asked earlier?
Sure.
The 3 cedar trees, we had asked the commission and the North River Commission to remove those for the driveway, and everybody was in agreement with that. We hadn't asked for the other trees. The other 2 trees have become an issue to us because visually, there is this gaping dead space in the top of them. And so, to me, I would rather see something different looking than these trees which sit there with a big hole on the top of them from the dead space that when the vines were pulled out, it's just left an unsightliness look. Now, the other tree, despite the fact that it's within the 50 feet, I wouldn't want to take that down anyway. It's a beautiful tree. And what I'm trying to do is to create a look that tree can give us and give the view from the river up. But right now, it's getting squished in by these other 2 trees that they don't provide much in the way of aesthetic. So we thought this might be a way to allow that to become sort of a feature element in the yard. There is another one that is to the west of that that has created a beautiful shape to it. Over the 15 years that we've been living here on the property, we love that tree. So trying to create that aesthetic is really what we're going after. Not so much trying to tear it up. Believe me, we've lived in this house for 15 years. We haven't come back to you to say, let's chop these trees down because we want better views. We like the nature and the feeling that we get when we're there. It's not that. Just trying to find a way to improve that.
Appreciate that, too. Is there any?
As far as the patio is concerned, we have there's no magic to that spot. As Greg had pointed out, it's nice to be able to go down there and enjoy the view that you can have of the river. Moving it to the east along that same plane would be workable for us, but what we're trying to avoid is having the patio sit right in front of the pathway that we would use to go from the house to the dock. So bringing it over some is certainly fine for us. It's just having it down there would be a nice thing.
Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak to this? Correct me if I'm wrong, we would need to continue this anyway, first of all, because we can't really do anything until we know how North River, and we need to tie in with them.
Yeah,
Am
I mean,
correct?
that's what I would recommend, because we don't want to be trying to require something different that they may require. They may
We have to
a
work in
planting
conjunction
idea.
with
them. Right.
Okay.
And in some of the things that we've brought up tonight, I can write to them about, here's our concerns,
Right.
vegetation. But we do know that it's a separate jurisdiction, we can't step on.
Okay.
So,
Secondly, and I'm jumping ahead of my colleagues here, it would seem to me that we would continue it. We'll need a motion for that, obviously. We'd want to tie it in with North River, but I would think that you would need to be prepared, if indeed it all does get agreed to, that we would be looking for some mitigation to replace those trees at the very least. Now, it may be more than that when the time comes, but I would ask that you have that in your head, because it's just a lot to ask that is within our jurisdiction. And we're happy to try to work with you, but I would be prepared for that.
we meet about a week after that meeting. I think we meet June 4th.
June 4th.
Yeah.
Week and a half.
Does anybody else have any more they want to throw in?
No.
I need a motion to
Motion to
continue. That will work?
Motion to continue this till June 4th.
And this time we can put a time.
I second the motion.
That's 6:30.
So we're going to continue to 6:30 on June 4th. Do we have a
Give a
vote?
second.
Vote and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Oh, that's yours.
Thank you, sir. Oh, I lost track. Where are we?
5 Irving Street.
55. Serrano.
You're doing a great job.
On May 7th, 2014, at 6:55 or thereabouts, in the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, Section 30700 of the Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Tom Serrani to rebuild an existing deck 12 feet by 28 feet and add a front porch 26 feet by 7 feet on property located at 5 Irving Street, Scituate. The butters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Is anybody here for this?
Well, that just saved us some time.
Did we get any requests for continuance, Carol? No?
It's 55. Move to continue?
Is that what we would normally do if they don't
Is that
show
what
up?
we're gonna do?
We're gonna have to re-advertise, aren't we?
Well, if we open,
Should we wait to hear from them?
where they are.
Is anybody out there for Irving
You
Street?
just asked, Steve just.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Steve, for doing that.
Yeah, I think we can open and continue.
Right, we can open, see if there's any comments, because it was advertised, and then continue.
Submit it in. I don't know if we have the abutter notifications.
No, that's why we have to re-advertise.
So do we open?
I think we can, but, Bill knows.
What?
Legal question for you. If the applicant doesn't show, we have all the materials, and you can open and continue without them being there?
Yes.
I thought that.
Without a butter notification? Then I have to re-advertise it?
I think because we've already given them a date, if they were here, they would be aware that it would be continued.
We
to another
would have
date.
notified
Yeah, I
him.
think you can open it without the green cards and.
As long as they
You're not
were,
taking any
right,
substantive action.
right. And as long as the green cards were provided,
Yeah.
we'd get them late and
Yeah, right.
the butters were notified.
So we just did open, did we not?
Yeah,
So we
We were deciding whether to back up.
we don't have to.
No.
I'm not good on this one.
Let's hold this for a while. Hold this till the end of the night, and I'll go
Just leave it
check,
open.
yeah.
Okay,
And maybe they are gonna still show up too,
Okay.
all right.
so.
So we'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
Yes. We'll hold on that one.
We have Townway Extension continued.
Yes.
Mr. Morse again.
Again, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the owner, Sarah Moran, 46 Townway Extension. What we've applied for is we've applied for a notice of intent associated with the installation of a new septic pipe. The existing property is shown in bold on the plan here. It's a seasonal summer cottage. It has a failed Title V septic system. What we've proposed to do is we've proposed to take the plumbing and route it into a new 2,000-gallon tight tank at the front of the property. The plan has been endorsed by the Board of Health. It's been approved. The tight tank would be emptied at the end of the season, and it would not be full over the winter. It would be decommissioned. And then in the summer, it would be opened up again for use. It's a seasonal facility.
Greg, can you orientate me here? That's the street in front?
This
So the-
is the street in the front
Okay, great.
here. This is, Peggotty Beach is right here. This is right on Peggotty Beach, one of the cottages right there to the right as you're walking over the dunes.
So this is all in a resource area, the whole?
Yeah.
The entire property is
Yeah.
a velocity zone at elevation 18. The ground surface elevations are elevation 12, elevation 10 under the house.
Pat?
At one point, were we waiting for a word from DEP on this?
We were waiting on word from Jennifer for a
Oh,
while, but we
okay.
have received the approval at
Because
this
DEP
point.
used to get involved in these and,
Yeah, DEP used to issue the approvals for tight tanks up until January of this year. They changed that, so now it's a local approval.
okay, so you've got the okay from.
Yes.
And can you describe how the tight tank setup works on this so that people know compared to where the water's rolling in on the waves and all that?
Sure. So a tight tank is exactly that. There's no leaching system attached to it. The plumbing from the house is coming into this tank, which is a completely watertight structure made out of precast cement. It'll have two covers on the top of it. The two covers are cemented on, and the access covers on the top are bolted down. So we tried to site it as far away from the resource area, being the Atlantic Ocean out here. We put it in the front of the property. Typically, you know, your mean annual high tide around here is approximately elevation 4.2. Okay, 4.2 on this plan is right here on this lot. Because this is in a velocity zone, with velocity at elevation 18, that means that there is wave action to elevation 18 during some of these winter storm events that we get. The front of this lot, again, is at elevation 12, is the highest contour. This system is below that elevation 12. It is buried in the ground. The piping is at elevation 10.5. So this has a foot of cover over the top of it. During any of those storm events, winter storm events, again, this property would not be inhabited. The tank itself would be dry at that point in time. There would be no sewage in it. It's required to be pumped out at the end of the season. It's required to be pumped out anytime the tank is 3/5 capacity full.
Greg, how is it, we've had this come up before, how is it anchored?
This one here has extended bases on the tank, which extend out beyond the edge of the tank, so that way you're getting the weight of the soil on top of these bases, in addition to the fact that it's an H20 tank, which means that the walls and the top of this tank and the bottom of the tank are all heavier than your standard tank. So the sheer weight of it, plus the additional friction of the soil over the stabilizer bases, weigh it down enough.
Questions?
What the alternative is. It sounds as good an alternative as there is, you know?
Questions?
No.
Questions? Anybody in the audience? Questions? You good?
Yeah, I think, you know, we'd put
Motion
conditions
closed.
in that it was pumped at the end of the season.
Right.
That would be one of the things we'd have to do. And if you have anything from Jennifer that you could forward to us.
Okay.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That's great.
Greg.
we need to, do I have a spiel for Kimberly, or we just continued on that? You have a request for continuance on Kimberly? So we don't open that, right?
Right, I think they want to continue for 2 weeks
2 weeks?
first. This is an amended order.
Continuance, so we need a motion to continue Schwartz, 14 Kimberly Road,
May 21st?
May 21st.
Second.
What time?
7:30.
May 21st, 7:30, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have Colonel Mansfield Drive, 55, Lot 2, Hoffman. Continuing. Quiet.
I'm doing well, thanks. Hi, I'm Bill Marnberger, I'm here with Craig Hoffman. He's also here with Rich and Helen Hoffman, here also with us tonight, support. And with Paul Marabito, and we're here since last thing, and I think Paul has got together with you, as I can see here, consulting engineer, and I think they've worked out all the issues and have something that's acceptable, you know, from the town standpoint. So at this point, I'm gonna just turn this over to Paul so we can explain
Paul,
what we've done.
as reason of starting, would you just do a little favor for everyone and tell us where you left off and what changes had to be developed, which you're probably gonna do anyway.
At the last meeting, we basically explained that some of the work was inside the 50 to 100-foot buffer zone. The septic system is outside of it, the majority of the house, as well as the proposed cul-de-sac. And it was left that the board would send it out for a peer review to your consultant, which has been done, and we would make any modifications or changes. We have made a couple minor ones. What we've done is we have eliminated the pervious pavement, and in this place, the water is going to be directed to this area in green, which is a bio-retention area. This green area is going to be the natural woods that will stay in place, and the water is simply sloped from this area down in, across this area here, which is woods, into this wooded area. This is the stone wall that'll be lined with a rubber liner, so the water stays in the wooded area here, and any water that wants to be released would be released to a small weir structure here and continue on through the woods and into the wetlands. This will also treat the water. There's a shallow swale here. That's a water quality swale as well that'll pick up and filter any pollutants as well. Other than that, there's been no changes to the plan. Amory engineers did review the project. We received their comments early this week, and we did respond to them. Greg Tangi of our office prepared those responses, and I believe Pat is here this evening as well if you have any questions. Pat from Amory Associates. So, other than that, nothing's changed on the plan.
Pat, did you see the
Yeah, we
report?
got them in later this week, and Pat had reviewed them, so I was gonna have Pat talk about that.
Would you?
Okay, Pat Brennan with Amory Engineers. I did review the plans that were originally submitted. Sent a letter in to Commissioner David May first, which had 8 comments on it. I'm not sure if you have that in front of you, but yesterday afternoon, I did receive an email from Paul's office with some revised plans and some revised calculations. They actually sent me their HydroCAD files, which allowed me to manipulate them and find out that everything actually worked. And so I did go through those today and looked at them. And at this point, with the way that everything's designed, they are mitigating both rate and volume of stormwater. They're not counting infiltration in their calculations at this time, so they don't have to provide a mound analysis, because the groundwater on the site's fairly high. It's only about 2 feet below grade. So the area around the house is infill. The roof drain structures, the infiltration structures for the roof are infill with perk sand below them. So they have the minimum 2 feet of separation. The area in green that Paul had discussed, the bioretention area, it's actually a natural wooded area that water will pond and slowly release through that.
Mhm.
Some of it will infiltrate, some of it will go into the wetlands. That type of an area does a real nice job of treating the stormwater. And as they had mentioned, they eliminated the porous pavement, which I think is a good idea, because porous pavement takes an awful lot of maintenance. You really have to vacuum, DEP says they have to vacuum sweep that every other week. I don't think a homeowner's gonna do that. So my suggestion was, it's better off not having that porous pavement, allowing the stormwater to run through the natural woods, which actually treats it, because if you look at how we construct rain gardens now, those are constructed with a compost material in it. That compost is basically the leaf litter in the woods that the stormwater is gonna pass through, so it's the same type of treatment technique that you get through a rain garden, it's just a natural treatment technique. So I think this is a better alternative to what they had before with the porous pavement, which would probably never get maintained and stop working after a short period. So at this point, I think that they've addressed my comments, and I think that they've met the regulations that are required by the stormwater bylaw.
So you're good. Thank you. Lisa, questions? Told you, didn't I? Went your way.
I know you did. Tricky.
Questions?
No questions.
Did we have anything else other than the stormwater?
The only question we had was, they were asking for relief from planning board requirements about the cul-de-sac road there, and you were looking to get the hammerhead design. And I'm assuming that that's gonna go through okay.
I remember that the fire department had approved it.
Yeah, the fire chief
Right,
approved
yeah,
it, yeah.
right.
Fire chief is, he'll approve that, but it needs to be approved. Otherwise, this becomes an impervious area, and it changes stormwater calculations, but assuming, we could condition that too,
Oh, wait a
because you
second.
may have to do some more trapping of stormwater if that whole area becomes paved. That
This wasn't
circular-
in the calculation?
The hammerhead turnaround is.
It is.
But if it's a paved circle, like a cul-de-sac circle, that much isn't. However, if that was the case, they could raise, they could provide more storage in that green area to make up for any additional pavement. And the soils up there are sea soils, so they don't infiltrate a lot anyway. So the difference between sea soil and the pavement, the curve number is, there's a difference, but it's not as much as if it was a sandy soil where water runs right through.
So could we condition that under those
The,
circumstances? That
The fire, just so you know, the fire chief has sent a recommendation to the planning board approving the hammerhead in place of a fully paved cul-de-sac, and also the addition of a fire hydrant at the end of Colonel Mansfield Drive. I did meet with him, and I went over the plans with him, and he sent that letter to them, I think, April 1st, so the planning board has that. You probably didn't get it because it's outside the 100-foot buffer zone, but we also spoke with the planning board informally last December before we filed this project, and they came to a consensus that rather than build 3 houses out here, if we agreed to 1, they would have no problem with the hammerhead as opposed to fully paved cul-de-sac.
understood,
Yeah,
however.
and I guess I'm just saying if that changes, then you and Pat may need to talk about how you're gonna account for that somehow. And it's still a walkout basement, plan? And that reduces the amount of fill that's going on to the property too.
And nothing else changed, right?
I'm sorry,
Still a walkout basement, nothing else changed,
it
right?
is right now, yes.
Are you going to change it?
Yes. It's still a walkout basement on the plan.
Right.
And there's no plans to change it.
Not at this point, no.
Okay.
Right, we're waiting for Pat to review the stormwater piece after last hearing. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're basing the stormwater permit on this plan here. And if there were to be changes, we'd call for a revised plan with us, and that gets complicated. Better off to have the plan you're hoping to live with up front.
That's why I asked the question, are you planning to change it?
If there's any change, the only thing I could see is that the house would be pulled outside the buffer zone. But as far as the grading, nothing would change relative to the overall impact. The grading would be similar to what you see there, because of the slope of the land. Everything's sloping down toward the wetland area and toward the septic system. It'd be a matter of just rotating that house to take it outside the buffer zone, that one corner. Other than that, there wouldn't be any changes. In my opinion, that would require the change of a stormwater permit, because you have the same amount of runoff, the same area of disturbance, whether the house is there or you pull it outside the buffer zone. If you pull it closer to the street, you'd have less disturbance on the lot.
So what you're saying is, what we see here is exactly what you're gonna proceed with.
At this point, yes.
I mean, we review what's presented to us and we vote based on that and we issue an order, but if after that something changes, they do have to come back to us.
This is true with every project. Yeah.
But for an order of conditions, it's, it only involves one department in town hall. We would be, if it's a stormwater bylaw issue, there's planning boards involved and we're involved and it gets complicated, so we're trying to avoid,
Duplication.
yes. yes.
Yeah, so it's, you know, we're in your jurisdiction, we're addressing the environmental issues. I think we've satisfied the stormwater issues, and if there was some, if there was, we don't anticipate it, if there was some, you know, meaningful change, then obviously we'd
Have to come back.
Yeah.
I have no questions.
Is anybody in the audience that has questions? Steve?
Not so much a question, but it's, it seems to me that this is a pretty low impact for a piece of property that could have more than one home. And it's a great thing that Mr. Hoffman can provide a place for his son to build a house and stay in town.
Thank you.
Well, I have a quick question on the orange area up there. Is that stockpiled for
Yeah, that's a
construction?
stockpile area during construction.
Yeah, it looks like it's outside the 100 too.
It's just temporary.
Yeah.
I thought it was jelly beans.
Yeah, it's Easter left over.
So we need a motion to close.
Yep.
You want to do it? You want to do it?
Motion to close.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I ask one question?
Not now.
So, I know customarily next week, next meeting, you vote the orders and all this kind of stuff. We're going to the planning board tomorrow night. And the question, because there's only 4 members here, just on there's a technical question on quorum, is because all of a sudden, if at the next meeting, 2 of you aren't here, then you run into a quorum issue. And what my query was, and I don't want to make what uncomfortable, is it possible to vote this, subject to you setting whatever conditions you want? In other words, because if you had that situation, you wouldn't run into a quorum problem. That's what my question. If there was 5 or 6 people sitting here, I wouldn't be having this discussion.
Could you please repeat that?
I actually understood that.
Yeah, right now you have the minimum quorum.
No, that's right.
Yes.
Okay? So when you go to vote at the next meeting, okay?
If one of us isn't
If one of you
here,
isn't
right,
here,
right.
you have a quorum problem.
Yes.
And even if the other members
Correct.
are here. And so, in light of that, what I was asking, if on both these things, if you could say, if you could actually vote it tonight, but to leave the door open and say, we're gonna vote to issue the order of conditions to approve the stormwater permit, subject to us setting conditions that are acceptable to us at the next meeting. Then in that case, if the vote has occurred, you still, to whatever conditions, can do whatever you want, but you don't run into a quorum issue. That's what that's.
Except what we normally do is we close the meeting.
I understand.
There is no vote. The next vote is to approve the orders.
Right.
And we don't have orders right here.
No, I understand that, but what the issue is, I'm just trying to avoid a quorum problem. So what I'm saying is, like, even if you vote this and it's subject to whatever conditions you set, you still haven't constrained yourself. All you're doing is getting by the quorum issue.
I understand your concern. I'm not sure how to deal with it.
Yeah, I think the way around that is that we could ask that the applicant agree to have one of the people who wasn't here tonight, who is at the next meeting, read the file, become familiar with it, and then be eligible to vote if you guys would approve that. So if someone was missing from here, and we had Frank
sure
and
Frank
Penny
will be
would be the
involved.
other
Frank
2
and Penny will
people,
both be here.
and they could read in, catch up, and that's allowed. You're allowed to miss 1 meeting on a hearing, so.
Okay.
I mean, and
It's not a real complicated
Okay,
project.
okay,
We'll
well,
sit
if
down.
that's your comfortable.
And we
that's-
could also talk to the planning board before their meeting tomorrow and summarize where we are.
Yeah.
You,
Which
the
is
meeting
ex-
with them
which is
tomorrow.
excellent, right?
Is that, yeah.
Is that excellent?
Yeah, we like the green and we like the
We
orange.
just closed it, so I guess it's okay.
There's some yellow in there.
Yeah, and this is tomorrow you meet with them, or
Yes.
tomorrow night?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I could summarize where we are with them.
Yeah.
That'll help.
All right, so, but just the
We'll be good.
consensus of the board is, we've done what we're supposed to do,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, great, all right.
You're good. Thumbs up. Thank you.
So, next meeting, the
We'll have the
21st,
conditions
we'll have the
ready.
conditions.
Right.
Vote and sign.
Yeah.
All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks for coming in. In these schools?
The last one, I don't know the answer to that, but sometimes they don't show up.
He's done that before.
If you had the cards, we don't do that.
We don't ever do that. And my other question is, we closed this. Why are we? I didn't think we were supposed to
Oh, I
talk
see what you
about
mean.
it.
On Irving,
Closed.
on Irving
I
Street.
thought-
Yeah, well, we.
Yeah, well, that was an administrative.
That's not really.
So we can't really continue
I'll
it.
have to, yeah, I'll have to.
So what do we do with it now?
He's talking about administrative.
All right, so let's leave it alone. All right.
We have Cornet Stetson, 136 Inley School. Do we have anyone here for that?
We can toss this.
But they've already,
And after
they've
we-
already opened.
They've already opened it after
Yeah.
we went there.
So, and this is the date they preferred, I thought it was, okay.
So we probably should just motion to continue on that.
Yeah, what's the start time on that one?
7:30, we're doing really good. We're only 10 minutes late.
Okay, so,
New record.
Oh, no, it's not a new record, but it's a record.
huh.
So we should continue. Yes.
Why don't we move on to something else, and then we can
What?
continue.
We
If
are
in the next
on to
10 minutes,
something
nobody's here.
else. We are,
Cornet Stetson is continued.
It was continued till tonight.
tonight.
But if they show up now, I don't want to have continued it till 2 weeks from now, in case they're running a few minutes late.
then you want to go back to your agent's report.
Okay.
Let's knock some of that down.
We could go to Caesar's Way, Old Mouth Road, riverbank erosion on the South River. And welcome to speak, or however you want to do this. We all received a letter, and I think most of the people might have the photos. You've seen the photos.
Seen the photos? I've been down to the
And there's a set
location.
of photos up there, but none of us were here when this all began, so if you have background information.
Would you mind, excuse me, would you mind coming up to the table
I
and
can do
just
that, I guess, got the cameras on.
saying your name?
Microphones.
Yeah.
My name's Bob Urbani, 171A or Caesar's Way, second lot in, if you want to call it that. Been there a long time, all my life. My grandfather from 1939, so. Anyways, I know none of you may have been involved many, many years ago in the 50s and earlier, and from there on, the asphalt, which you may have seen some of that in the pictures. Alden Street was a dirt road for a period of time. They paved it. The excess asphalt was dumped on the riverbank. My father was not very happy with that situation. There's some beyond us, and that is breaking apart and falling into it. Obviously, it's asphalt. There's been a variety of things. There's been a foreign material that was put down some years ago to address the fact that we had puddles that might have been 10 feet long and 4 feet wide, which was regular Hummer Rock dirt. And I don't know what you would call that material that's there, the grayish, it looks like crushed concrete. Well, that material doesn't allow water to soak in, it creates a washboard effect. And so there has been a petition which should go to town meeting for a betterment to grade it. And the grading takes what is compacted and turns it into just soft dirt, and it just seems like it's always inevitable. We have a rainstorm the day or two after, and it just starts washing away. So from the pictures, if you had a chance to see them, and so you can see some of the erosion. I pointed out a gas line that was changed because it was exposed about 2 years ago.
It still is exposed, isn't it?
I mean,
It still is exposed.
that's no longer been used, it's abandoned. But yes, the pipes are all there.
there's the excess pipe that they didn't use, is over in the field too, in front of Mr. Mazzelli's house. There's lots of things go on down there that I won't get into, you know, and, so my issue is that the erosion's onto the property down there. I want to, you know, stop the erosion on the land down there. It's building up, and we've been clamming there. It's where, you know, my family's had that land since 1939. So this at one time was a single piece of land from the river to the ocean, back in 1939.
Long time ago, right?
Yes, up until, my grandfather died in 63, then it was subdivided. So,
So what are you hoping we can do for you?
well, I wanted to put a wall to stop the erosion, plain English. Drive some 4x4s in there, and I'll do whatever I have to do to stop the erosion onto my property. My intent downstream was I was gonna put a little float, you know, 10 foot, maybe 16 feet out to load people on and off my boat. Years ago, we did have a pier, but, you know, my father got tired of maintaining it. So I'm looking to say what can be done. Obviously, if you could pave it and put some serious speed bumps on there, it'd be nice, but that's not gonna happen, so. I mean, it's, the town caused it. It's getting worse. I could show you, I didn't take pictures of it, but, one of the cedar trees that somebody mentioned earlier, spruce or cedar, falling over because the bank eroded it. They're still alive, but they fell over into the river. So, eventually the telephone poles will be exposed again. They just replaced one of them. So I don't know, what is the rules about stopping the erosion? I put 100 feet of Jersey barriers down there? I mean, I know it might sound ridiculous to ask that, but what is allowed to be done?
I just said, oh, go ahead.
What, in your opinion, do you feel is really causing the erosion from the road to the river?
Oh, the runoff, because the puddles don't permeate back into the ground, they just flow off. You know, it's been getting worse, and over the last 15 years or so since that material was put down, it might have been 20. It's just been a disaster. I won't get into the dust issue, which I know you didn't see. You know, there's a conflict between some of the people who live beyond there, and they want a smooth road that they can speed over. I'd like to be able to keep my windows open in the summer to not let the dust from that foreign material. The old sand doesn't blow. We get southwest winds, it doesn't blow from that direction. We never had a serious problem with it, rarely. But, it's
So
just,
are you
it's an annoyance.
looking to put sand down on?
No, I'm
onto
looking to
there?
put a wall to stop the erosion onto my property and the rut that it's making there. I showed you the contour of the river, it's extending out. I also, if you saw the pictures, showed you the framework of an ancient ship that's down there. It's gradually getting buried, a good 10, maybe 8 to 10 of the, whatever you would call the ribs of the hull, are buried now from the runoff at Alden Street, which extends out maybe 12 to 15
I've
feet.
gone down there like 5 times looking for this, and I cannot see it.
If you leave me a phone number, I'll call you and tell you exactly what time. Although right now, let's see, high tide's about, what, 6:30, 7 o'clock?
High tide, yeah.
Yeah, you need to be there at low tide.
It was around noon today.
Yeah, it's around noon. It's around noon. I sent pictures. I might not have had the exact right time. It might have been an hour off because the ones taken in February, I don't think I had set my camera clock to reflect daylight savings not being on standard time. So those were about 4 o'clock. I could take some more, but they are there. We always call them the logs. I mean, the condition of the rivers, I know there's efforts to make the health of the river better. They're not helping.
So what do you want to do on your property to prevent the erosion?
I wanted to put, build a retaining wall, essentially of some sinking, some 4x4s, and maybe put some 2x12s, and then I'll fill it with rocks and things to just stop the erosion. And maybe it'll puddle there. And I will say, when they grade it, if I have to go down and stand and tell the guy, stop cutting an opening there. They cut an opening to do this.
Who is they?
Whoever the town hires to grade.
And when did they last do that?
About a month ago. Right when I was about, in fact, it was the day I wrote the letter. And then sure enough, I said, damn, here they are again.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused about it, because I thought, from what I've been talking to at Public Works, it's private way down that end, so the town's not doing the grading down there.
Well, somebody's, I don't know who's doing it, to tell you the truth. I wasn't party to those decisions.
Because there was a betterment plan at
There was
one
a
time.
betterment.
And several people were involved, and they were
send a betterment tax afterwards.
Enough people beyond where we were.
Right.
Were signed off on it, which included this section of River Street. They all live on Old Mouth, Ocean Front,
Right.
and nobody really has a Court Street address. Old Mouth Road doesn't start until you get up around the bend. The maps down here, the maps in the hallway, those are wrong.
So I think there are some neighbor-to-neighbor issues,
Well,
like.
our issue there is
speed,
speed.
Right.
It's
And,
ridiculous speed. Mrs. Questle, who owns a waterfront house, almost one of her grandchildren almost got hit last summer.
and it is a private way, so the town can suggest maybe some solutions, but they're not gonna do it. But what we can do is, we could respond to proposals of what you wanna do. You talked about maybe trying to build a wall,
Yeah.
put in gardens. There are certain things that may work there, but you need an engineer to come up with a plan to say, here's what, you start
So
driving
there's
patterns
nothing-
and.
You know, I'm not gonna go to the effort of getting an engineer. I don't have the
Yeah.
cash to fund an engineer to stop something that I didn't cause.
Right.
If your water was flowing onto my land and it was in your backyard, you'd be suing somebody. This is my land. It happens to be a riverbank, but it is my land.
Right. But you can't just go out and throw down stones or brick or sand or something
The
and have
town
it work.
dropped, that stone, is that riprap type stone, which is all washing down onto the riverbank. I pick it up and throw it up there constantly.
Yeah, I spoke with the head of Public Works. He'd be glad to sit down and talk about possible solutions, but to really come up with a plan to do this right, none of us are
I hear you there.
engineers. And, you know, there are some possible solutions, and we hear what you're saying, and I
Yeah,
understand.
I mean, it's gotten worse and worse. I mean, the grading, obviously, I'm amazed that we don't have to put down salt marsh hay bales to stop the runoff. I mean, it's pollution. See, I've been there my whole life, so I remember when there was eels, mussels, flounder, pollock, horseshoe crabs, little shrimp-type creatures. They're all gone. I can't say the stripers ate them because they haven't caught anything. So the condition, and this is the North River, and this is every one of the ships that was built went by here. And they call it the South, this is where they all went by.
It sounds like, you know, we can't tell you what can be
Oh,
done at
I
this point.
understand that.
But it sounds like if somebody's willing to sit down with you and at least explore possibilities, that would be the best thing in order. And you said
Yeah, and there is a role for us in that we don't want the river to get polluted, so stuff is, you know, you sent a picture of it, the puddle was bringing some kind of substance into the river.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
regular
I
basis.
saw that, and, you know, there's chunks of pavement that's fallen into the river,
Right.
so, I mean, I think we'd like to be involved in being part of the solution to it, but as far as, you know, paying for a structure, we don't have a budget.
Oh, I
But-
understand that.
but-
That's why,
Yeah, but
neither do I have a budget to go beyond essentially assembling some sort of retaining wall from my area to the further, Dorothy's house, or there's a little bit piece of land beyond me that belongs to Sea Rivers Trust, very small amount.
Right.
But, and they actually, that's another issue, there's parking lots down there. I know we talked about a betterment fee, I always wonder how you get to run a parking lot with outhouses, you know, portable potties in a residential area, but that goes on down there too. Which, I don't know if any of you have ever been down there to see that, but, so we have a lot of traffic down there. A lot more than the people that live there.
I mean, I think the town would entertain a betterment too. I mean, if that was something that the town could help organize and get everybody that's beyond that point that uses the road,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there'd be a way of,
Well, there is a betterment fee already assessed, don't ask me how it was calculated, but.
yeah. And does that only go to grading of the road, or does it go?
Apparently that was just for road grading. I did attend a meeting, I don't know if you were at years ago, here, with Kathy Joyce and Ginny Tossie Newcomb, who I think were involved in the article to the town meeting. Of course, I wanted to put up a gate. I'll be honest with you. We'll stop all the traffic, we'll just put up a gate, you know, like you have in Florida or any of these places. But, because we do have a lot of riffraff going through there. And the police say they can't do much about anything. They say that it's private, they don't have any authority to do anything. There's a stop sign as you leave our section onto the main Todd Road, nobody stops. Somebody will get hit sooner or later, some kid on a skateboard, then something will happen. So, I mean, it just got to the point where I just got too aggravated with it, and I said, that's it, I can't take it anymore.
Bob, you the house on the,
I'm the second house in. First one's
Right.
my cousin Janice.
Okay.
I'm the second one in, which at one time was the newest, built in '51. And the next two are belong to Jack and Kathy Questle.
And then there's the street, then there's the river. So the street is in
it's-
between you, so it's
Well,
eroding on the,
Yeah,
Riverside,
yeah.
yeah.
They split it
Turn
back.
left to
yeah.
go down
They
Hill
took it
Street
from
and
a,
goes on the
they
right.
took it from a single lot to split it into the A and B section, the B section being, which at one time was the street and the riverbank. And I get confused when I go to Registry of Deeds and I look at land things and I say, okay, what was a dotted line became a solid line, you know, and, I mean, there's so many different land court things, I don't know really what the decisions were back in 46, 51, 53, 63. So, but, and where we are is, that's a right of way, that's not a street.
So we can facilitate a meeting with the DPW at the very least, and,
Yeah, I'm looking
and
for
if
guidance.
necessary, the police department too, right?
Yeah, I think there is gonna be a community meeting with the police coming up in May, but we could handle this as a, far end of River Street and try to see what Public Works suggests. Because they've been involved in projects down that area before, and maybe they'll have some ideas.
So where's the community meeting in May?
It's in the month of May at a community center, that's all I know. Our community,
It'll be at Julian Street, South
Yeah,
Humboldt.
it's South River.
South, yeah.
I don't have a date yet, though.
They are trying to sort of do things with the HBIA, but, again, my plan is to put a float, so we can load people in and out of the boat as they get hold of some of my cousins.
That sounds like something about the harbor.
Yeah, that'll
Yeah,
do.
so that's a
you'll-
separate issue, and all the
Yeah.
research I've done on that says I have the right to go forward and do all of that. So just have to go through the process with the state, is it?
Chapter 91.
Yeah.
Chapter
different
9.
things to
Although
get it
they,
okayed.
the state is modifying that, remember? They're
Yes.
modifying that law a little bit to make it a little easier.
It can be more
Yeah.
local.
Yep.
It doesn't involve the government.
I know, as long as, if it wasn't a rigid structure, if it floated and didn't block sunlight, things like that, it was more provable. So, anyways, but the erosion will seriously hurt that effort, because it's right where,
So
Well, I
Pat, will
think a
you,
good start is to meet with Pat and DPW. At least there you could start, find out how the betterment was assessed, who did it. Maybe a good thing would be to try to have a meeting with your neighbors.
their main interest is smooth roads so they can, because the bumps. Al Bankert had said about getting some seasonal speed bumps in. That never happened. I don't know if that's something that can be done, because it is a serious issue with the speed of people.
So people drive,
35, 40 miles an hour until they hit the pavement, then they slow down. We've had people go off the riverbank into the river. Won't say if they were totally sober on the way home, but they did go into the river, not within the last 3 years.
that does take care of the speeding problem.
Oh, that same person hasn't slowed down any, though.
so can we facilitate a meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what guidance can I get? That's what I'm looking for.
That's basically.
Trying to
what-
ask for permission, not ask for.
What you'll need to do is put together a plan, maybe after talking to DPW, for what you would like to do, and then bring that to us. And
Yeah, is there any restrictions on materials or things? I say, I mentioned Jersey
There
Brown.
would be.
Oh,
that's why
there's,
you'd have to bring
yeah,
a
there's
plan to us.
restrictions about that thick.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
you're on a
that's very
barrier
thick.
beach and a
You've
river
read all
and a
those, they
sand
tell me
dune.
what is allowed, not what isn't.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, if you can get the town to get out in front of this, and then you pay its secondary role, it'd be a lot better, so.
yeah, Kevin had talked about, in the past, they suggested these gabion bags and core bags, which are either cobble or sand.
There
And,
is no drainage pit there to deal with.
yeah. But, the town doesn't want the road breaking away either, because they have
Oh, it's-
fire and police.
Right.
And it has lost, as I said, those gas pipes were covered not that long ago. So we're losing a lot quickly now with this. And the grading, it really does aggravate the situation because it softens the dirt.
Is there still natural gas in that area?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
street gas, they moved the line over because that one was exposed, it became a danger, that maybe 50, 60 feet of pipe. So they moved the line to the other side. I often wondered about that, they never get easements to do things. But-
All right.
So,
we'll try to get you connected with DPW, see if we can come up with some recommendations.
So I'll go back and,
Yep.
you'll let me know something, and hopefully soon, because I want to get this going.
Really appreciate the interest.
Good luck.
And we'll do what we
Yeah,
can.
I know, good luck.
Thanks for the efforts.
Yeah, I didn't ask for, forgiveness, so. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Guys, have a
That's
good
what we
night.
like to hear.
We saw some people come in. Were any from the Inley School? No, still nobody here for that.
That's Sereni.
Yeah, we do have someone from Irving. We've had some people waiting for a while though too, so, we can do whatever you like to do.
I think we should continue on with your report, knock those off, and then we'll go back to Serrani,
Okay.
because we're a little late on that.
Okay, we have the Sullivans from Hollitt. I think some of you have gone out, is it 157?
59.
159 Hollitt.
I was there today, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you guys were out there too. This is the one closest to the top of the street.
Right.
Okay, we went to 3
On
on
the,
October.
with bordering the town forest.
Right, so, we got a call that there'd been some tree cutting done out there, so took a ride out, and the tree cutter had been gone, but there was work done in the buffer. When the house was constructed, there was a planting plan that was required at the buffer, and there were trees beyond the buffer that were cut. They were in the buffer to the wetland that were cut, so met with the homeowners, and they'd moved in recently, were unaware of some of the specifics of an order as a condition that would say no cutting in the buffer. It's not work in the wetland, but it's really close, and there's stumps, and I said, hold off on any stumping and any kind of clearing, so that's where we are at this point, but if you wanna.
No, that pretty much sums it up. I mean,
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but would you identify yourself?
sure, my name is Joe Sullivan.
Right.
I live at 159 Hollitt Street. As Patrick described, that's dead on. We had some dead trees listing towards the house. We had a tree company come out, cut it. We also had some other trees outside of the buffer zone that we had them get rid of that were just starting to die off and had broken branches. We had them cleared out. And one of the there were 2 dead trees next to the tree in the buffer zone that they pulled out also, which came with vines and that sort of
They
thing.
had fallen, so they were dead trees laying on the ground. It was a mess. When the house that we bought was built. It was a new house, but we did not contract with the contractor in any way. This was a straight sale like any other house. So we were not aware in any way that there was even wetland behind our house. We were told there was conservation land, but we presumed that was way back by the train tracks. There were property markers. We thought we were well within our property line. So what we did was just some basic cleanup of the backyard. And then someone called on us, so Patrick came out. But there was no ill intent, nor did we were absolutely 100% unaware.
I'm sorry, you'll have to move back out of town.
Yeah, no, we're 2 kids from Southie, and we didn't know. We came in here and we thought we were gonna have this great backyard based on our property that my husband has a copy of it. Of the property line, the markers that they had put up were 100% in line. We brought one of the tapes, and we walked out there and we thought we had this big backyard. And much to our chagrin, we found out, don't touch it. You're gonna kill something. So we're here.
Patrick came around.
Pleading ignorance.
We called the builder, and, we explained what was going on. He's like, are you familiar with the order conditions? He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, I didn't give you those papers. And
'cause Patrick
apparently,
had gone out to him, so.
he had come in a town hall that afternoon, and then he provided us with it that day,
This wonderful
which
document that
we had never
Never
seen.
No.
So,
He came to our house within the hour. He came to our house, yeah.
So, we have a bunch of questions, but, obviously we want to rectify the situation and find out what our responsibilities are. And you tell us, and then we have a
And
few.
what else we can do?
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, I'd love to be able to put a lawn back there, but if you say that that's not the case, then we'll have to change our pie in the sky thoughts and ideas.
We had a yard for the first time, we didn't know what to do.
We didn't know we were doing the right thing.
All right.
Well, I was just gonna say, there was a lot of briars, and tree cutter probably should have been aware there was a wetland out further, but in the immediate area to where they were cutting was all briars and invasives. It was a pretty nasty area, but, you know, they probably didn't have any way of knowing that that planting line right along there, blueberry bush and stuff like that, that was the buffer line, so. And that should have been told to you when.
Yeah, I thought that was the we thought,
So how
we
far
thought it
along
was
is
the
that?
builder, trying to save a little bit of money, not clearing the whole backyard.
Yeah, we figured that's as far as he went, and the rest
So
was
how
up to
far
us.
are we into the buffer?
It's probably 30 feet, I would say. Well, you guys were out there. Yeah.
Were there any continuing orders that, that address this?
You know, I don't have it in front of me. There were 3 of them in a row, and there could be. I don't know if the certificate of compliance probably hasn't been issued yet because there was a planting plan, and usually 2 years for those plants to take. And these houses aren't 2 years old, so.
Right. But I'm wondering if there's any
Yeah.
permanent continuing orders
Yeah,
that their title attorney should have picked up and,
yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, I guess I may be able to shed a little bit of light on this. I actually developed the property. Got the permitting done.
Yeah.
And I'm the one that put the thousands of dollars worth of plans behind those fences that were put up. And those fences are on the non-disturbance zone.
Okay.
This is the next house. This is the second house, and
Yeah,
There were both, two
Oh, yeah.
side-by-side houses. I just noticed you have a Diamond Development owner on that, and I'm Diamond Development, so. And
Okay.
I don't know which of the 2 houses it is.
Yeah.
But going across the back of that property, there's a number of split rail fences.
There's on the other property, not on ours.
So he didn't, no, there was on both of them.
There were rails in the area where the trees were cut down, all laying down, which we pulled out of there. We just figured they were from the old house. The house beside us has fencing.
Yeah, we
Both
presumed
both
those
of the
were
2
fences.
houses, when we finished, because we did all the replication out there in the buffer zone, and there were number of split rail fences going across the entire, both of the 2 properties. When we finished the job, and we put all the replication in, or the buffer zone enhancement plantings in there. At the time, I think Paul Shea was the agent, and so Pat's really kind of new to this one here, because we did this a few years ago. I believe we actually came in and got a partial certificate of compliance for the not the wetland restoration, but the buffer restoration. We came in before we transferred the property out, because we wanted to make sure that as developers, we did all the conservation work, so it wasn't left up to any homeowner to do it.
Right, I have some concerns that you're speaking kind of on our behalf though, because I don't know you, I've never worked with you, and we didn't contract with the contractor. We bought the house from someone who owned the house.
Right,
We bought the house, so we know
he's
nothing
giving
about
you a
any of this.
history. He's not speaking on your behalf. He's just giving you a
But he's
history. of
giving you a lot of history about our property that we know nothing about. We've had no involvement with this. So I don't know, I can't speak to what was there before we moved in. What I can speak to is the work that we contracted with the tree guy to do. And I think that that's a fair, I think that that's a fair conversation for us to have, not to have someone, I'm sorry, sir, who's here kind of speaking of, heck, the old homeowner could be in the audience. That's all. I just don't feel like it's particularly fair for us, given that this could cost us money. We don't know. We're terribly sorry, but we were told nothing. And it's upsetting to hear that there were property lines. I mean, there is a split rail fence that kind of goes down the side of the house, but it's mainly on the other property. And to be honest with you, it looks like an old fence. I don't know, I didn't know that had anything to do with conservation or any sort of rules or ordinances by any means. So I guess I'm just not comfortable with.
If I could finish, and I'm not speaking blaming you for anything. What I'm doing is trying to explain to the commission what was done on the history of the property. We then sold the property to a builder after that conservation work was done. When I mentioned Paul Shea as the old agent coming in, the issue we had when we did clearing back there and replanting behind those fences was that a lot of the trees in the area were dying because of the amount of vines that are out there. And as you guys purchased, I'm sure when you look back there, you said, oh my God, these vines are ridiculous. Paul Shea had actually asked us if we were interested in doing more clearing back there. And I'm sure, Pat, if you saw it, the vines have taken over everything back there. When we originally proposed the project, we took a reasonable amount of area because we didn't want to go right up against the wetland boundary. But Paul felt as though it made more sense to go even further up near the wetland boundary and clear out all these vines and some of that vegetation, because the stuff will grow right back in again. So I'm not trying to blame the property owner now for what's there. I'm just trying to explain kind of how it got to the point where the actual builder took over and then he constructed the homes. So again, the builder may have removed some of the split rail fence. I'm certainly not accusing you guys of taking out a split rail fence. I'm just saying, when we left the job, the split rail fence was across the back of both of those properties. They could have gone in with an excavator and wiped it right out. Not you guys, you don't drive an excavator, but the builder could have gone back there. I don't know what happened, other than when we left, there was pieces of split rail fence that at the time delineated the area that was, quote, non-disturbance area. What happened after that, again, I'm not blaming you guys, I just wanted to give these guys the background of what happened, because I know Pat hasn't been here long enough.
We don't use split rail fences anymore, because the same thing happens wherever you put them.
They leave.
Yeah.
So, what,
Yeah, so when I was out there, I talked about, usually in these situations, the commission will talk about a replanting plan, something that makes up for it. We try not to have the roots and the whole stumps taken out of there, because that disturbs the soil worse. There may be areas in there where you could take them out, where it's closer to the yard where the blueberry bushes are planted, and that may be a detriment to leave them in there. But the problem is, people come in and they're assuming they're gonna be able to do a full green lawn, and that's, you can't really put that in the buffers to the wetland. We could check the wetland line and see where it is and then do the 50 feet off. These plants, there's a chance they're not at the 50. Maybe they're further out than the 50, and there's a room for a little lawn beyond that, and then there's an area that would need some kind of planting. But, it was all vine, so whatever you put back there is gonna be better than what you had. You had a few cedar trees, but the rest of it was all.
Yeah, because after we had spoke, there were some blueberries that I put back best I could figure out how they were along the line, so hopefully that'll do something.
Well, I guess our question is, so this buffer zone is forever?
Yeah.
The buffer zone is a 50 feet from, where is this water? I just don't see it.
Right. What happens was, when the developer builds a piece of land, they will build as many houses as they can in an area, and they'll get as close to the wetland as they can. And in this town, nothing can happen within 50 feet of the wetland for a new developed area. It's gonna be all trees and bushes at 50. Once the 50, you start there. Usually that's where your lawn will be 50 to say 75, then the houses after that. So you really can't touch within the 50, even though it doesn't look wet. It's based on the vegetation that grows there in the soils. And it's involved with purifying the water for the town, preventing the flooding and habitat. So there's a lot of reasons why it's protected. State law is not quite as tough as town laws, but town laws require 50.
So have we delineated the 50?
Well, there's a plan, there is an old file, and there's plantings that look like they were the buffer plantings.
Yeah.
And there might have been a fence next to that, so we could look at that.
And any continuing orders.
Right,
yeah, if there were
right,
Get them a
continuing
copy,
orders that
yeah.
are still open, would not the builder be responsible for those, or am I wrong on that?
A lot of
No.
times.
Recorded on the deed, and it goes with the deed forever.
Okay.
And it could be 2 years, it could have been everything was done, except the plantings are in, just the 2 years for the plants to take and make sure that they don't die. So.
I don't follow that. Could you help me? So there's like a snaked line, and behind the snake line was all the bramble,
Yeah.
the downed trees, the couple of the saplings that we had pulled out. There were some like sticky, maybe also remember we did this during the winter, so nothing was green or anything, so it was these sticky kind of branches that had a blueberry, looked like it was a blueberry bush because it had a ticket on it. So what does it mean, like 2 years, let it grow? Does that mean after 2 years, everything can come up?
No, it means that when they plant them, we want to make sure they live. And so we say, 2 years later, okay, they're still alive, you're off the hook, you're okay. So it's.
When builders come in, they say, we want to do such and say, okay, in order for you to be able to do this, give us this. So put a row of blueberry bushes in, and then you can do this over here. And then we say, we'll come back a year or 2 years and say, okay, those blueberry bushes have taken, your part of the mitigation is fulfilled. you know?
Okay.
So I think the best thing to do is go ahead and find out definitively where the 50 is, and then if there's any other outstanding
Right,
orders.
continuing
then we'll go
orders,
from
or,
there.
yeah.
Okay, I don't understand what a continuing order is.
Like, it could say on your deed that you have to maintain a split rail fence on the 50-foot buffer zone, and there can be no activity or beyond that.
Okay.
That could be on your deed, that's one thing that could be on there. And,
How would I find that out? Just looking like,
okay, Steve knows because he was the,
sure.
I do this all the time, I've done
Sure.
it for 25 years in
Yep.
Scituate. When you did your closing, we had an order of conditions, which these people write, the Conservation Commission members,
Okay.
which is a separate document from your deed, okay? But there's an order of conditions. When you had a closing with your attorney,
Yeah.
he should have gone through the paperwork with you. And actually, in that order of conditions, it lists probably 60 conditions that have to do with this particular board. And one of the conditions is that once you take title to the property, you're supposed to notify the commission that you're the new owner of the property. The reason for that is to actually prevent exactly what's happening now.
right.
So again, if it went through
So
the
your
cracks,
attorney didn't
that's
do a
fine,
very
but
good
you're
job
here-
for you, yeah.
But you're here, and you've got the opportunity to correct it.
Yeah.
So you want to get a copy of the existing order of conditions, okay, which is on record at the registry. And
Okay.
We'll have it
Carol
here,
also
too.
may be able to get you a copy of that as well. It's in the file here. But that'll have about 60 conditions in it, and I can't remember exactly what the continued conditions were on this particular project, but some of it revolves around whether you can use fertilizers on site, whether you can have an in-ground irrigation system on site,
Yeah.
what areas have to be the non-disturbance zone, which will show on the plan. It's, once you read the document,
Yeah.
it'll take you 15 minutes to read it. It's pretty thorough, the amount of conditions that go on this type of project. But you'll have a much better understanding, I think, once you read that document. And the
Very
last thing I would
strongly
say is, as far as the mitigation goes on this site, when Paul was back here, he said if there's anything that the commission could do to have somebody actually remove more vines, it's better for the wetland area back there. So if you were thinking of any type of a maintenance issue for these people, if you allow them to remove those vines, all the wetland planting, all the buffer zone plantings that went in will be much healthier over the course of time if they can remove those vines as they grow in towards.
Right, once we look at the conditions and where they're at, yeah.
This probably sounds much more complicated than you want to hear.
Yeah.
No,
But-
to be honest with you, I think our reaction is more how
I'm not-
terribly ill-informed we were going into this. That
Okay.
we were provided none of this information, so it's just upsetting.
And that's very understandable.
It is, yeah.
What I would have you go away with in the short term is that we're not really going to throw you out of town.
No.
And
No,
we will.
You know, we're good people and we try to do the right
We
thing.
will,
and
we
we're-
will work with you to try to make it so that you can have a yard that complies with what needs to be complied with on the one hand, but still that you can really enjoy.
Can I have an in-ground pool?
No.
No, the cabana? No.
In the front yard.
Next to the septic.
All right, so we're gonna,
Can I ask a couple of quick questions?
Yeah.
In that area that was cleared out, there's a lot of trash. There's like bales of wire, bottles, cups, this, that. Can I go in there and clear that out?
Yes.
Okay. 'Cause
I have a question too. So we talk about a split rail fence. They're ugly. Can I put a prettier fence?
Now,
We don't have, we're blind, we're flying blind now. We need the,
Wetland plantings.
Yeah.
we need the conditions in front of us, because we're like you. We have no idea what is conditioned on your
Can I put
property.
beautiful lilac trees or something? Like, come on, I'm willing to work here, like.
Right, but you're going a little faster than we can go, unfortunately. We need, Paul's right, you need to find the order of conditions, then we know what we're working with, and then we will work with you so that you will have to come with a plan. But that's not gonna be as
Yeah, we'll go
arduous
through
as you
it,
might
right.
think.
So you
Yeah.
don't do a plan that can't be accepted. You wanna come in with a plan that we've already talked about and you know that will fly.
And then before you invest in plants, you might want to go to a nursery and let them know what type of soil, how wet it is, what kind of sun it gets. And they could recommend plants that would have a chance of surviving, because not all plants will grow in all places.
Okay, so, just so I understand, so we have to get the order of conditions.
Right.
Find out, read it, find out what's going on.
Right, and then you may wanna talk right here with the Conservation Office with Pat.
Great.
And then
And then
the next step would be to come up with some sort of a plan that complies with the order of conditions on the one hand, but then you can put together your plan for planting.
Okay.
And that will come back before us,
Okay,
but we're not too bad.
no.
Patrick, we're gonna be like an old penny. We're just gonna turn it up.
All right, yeah, we just want to do what's right and just,
I
We,
live in
look, we
Southie, I
appreciate
didn't
that
know
you're
where-
willing to do this. This is good.
and, because, you know, my question, it'll probably be solved in the order of conditions, you know, at some point, if we want to put a little shed back there, it'll tell us how
It will.
far or where.
It will,
Okay,
yes.
and then from there, we can work and figure it out.
Yeah, this is, just so you know, this is not a unique situation at all. We do this for literally every single new development that comes in. So, you guys are not unique in the restrictions that are put on your property. It is a little unique that
It is a little too bad that
they
you
didn't
didn't get
share
it
the
when you
information
closed.
with you. Yeah.
That-
And we remind developers and realtors that they should be
should
sharing
be
all
disclosing this
information on
information.
sites.
They don't
They
wanna,
said-
they don't wanna miss the opportunity.
But they're not
Conservation,
representing
no
the
one can build
buyer.
that.
There's only one attorney representing the buyer, and he's the guy responsible. Yeah.
It's shady business.
Well, we-
Should I email Patrick to find out how to go about the next
Yeah,
steps?
you and my card.
I do.
Okay,
Yes. Okay.
yeah, we can.
Yeah, he'll,
We-
he'll,
You know, I can actually, you don't have to come all the way in here to look at the order. There's like one page on the order that's gonna deal with all vegetation. I can pull that out and either, you know, send it to you or whatever.
That'd be great.
But you want the whole order.
Yeah, you'll
be able
want
to
a
read all
copy,
of it.
right, right.
Okay.
I can
Yeah, they
scan-
will.
If you have his email, I can scan it, email it.
Okay.
Great.
Pat could scan it.
So we do appreciate you coming in, we'll work with you.
Yeah.
I appreciate talking with everyone. I'm sorry we felt so stupid, and
Don't worry about that.
Absolutely.
we like it here, so we want to stay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you don't mind, we're gonna jump back to Serrani, 5 Irving Road. We did open this, and then we sort of waited.
Okay.
So it's
Mine says
6:55.
6:55.
Yeah, and we opened it about 7 o'clock. It's now 8:30. So that's why we're out of order. But, you're here, I'm glad, and
Okay.
you're on.
Yep. So, I have the green cards, yes, sorry.
Is this an immigration
I
thing?
think they're all accounted for, but, I'm Dick Rockwood, and I'm representing Tom Serrani, for this project. It's, right on the South River. I don't know if you have photos of the house, but I've made some photos, if I can share them with you. Sure.
Who's the architect?
So this is an existing deck that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes.
And,
No, we had an
Oh, yeah, we were by here. We were by here.
And, so, what we're proposing to do is, this deck is in disrepair here, so we want to replace this deck. We're proposing to make it, I think it's 2 feet larger, it's 12 feet altogether. And we want to put a farmer's porch that's 7 feet out on the front of this house, which is represented on that plan that I believe that you have. It was
Right.
Yep. This is just the same thing blown up and color coded, if it's clearer to see where the deck is. You can see the delineation on the existing wood deck that is there.
Bigger.
Yes,
Bigger
yeah,
scale.
I do this, I do it for me so I can see it, but I figured everybody could enjoy it.
what's the
I still want.
Yes.
Right here.
Well, no, it isn't.
And they wanna wrap
Maybe the
around.
only point of conjecture. You said it's going 2 feet closer to the river, am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And that's what we are proposing, so. And then this goes out towards the street. The orange is the covered porch, the farmer's porch. And a little shade to the front of the house there. And there's already a cantilever deck which is on there, so that's pretty much the project.
So how far is it from, is this the
Oh.
50 here, or what is this?
So you're extending this 8.5 feet from the existing deck towards the South River?
No, it's 2 feet.
2 feet.
So his, I actually
Yeah, where this lawn is.
just got these,
And why does it say 8.5
and it
feet?
shows the, well, it
That's
shows
showing
the property
setback from
line.
the property
If you
line.
have it on a site plan.
See the
there,
property line?
As far as the, that shows the wetland.
All right, so
I
I
previously-
don't think
So it'll be
he's adding
6
it
in there.
in.
So your question was how, there's actually
Yeah, how
a
far?
railroad tie
This is the
embankment
existing.
thing
Where is
that
the
breaks the
added?
lawn to
Here?
the river.
No, this is a drawing of what it's gonna look like. See, right now, there's one
Pat, do you have
And that is,
here.
the distance from?
This is the
no, I
new
thought I turned in
drawing.
something
Okay,
that had
this
the
is the,
distance.
this is the.
This is
Distance
what's
from
on
the
the
bank,
bank.
I think that was the question we had.
Yeah, so the new
So
one,
from
the
that
new one
bank
will be like here,
Oh, so this
12
is the
feet.
scale.
and then it will,
Yeah, this
you
is
know,
the scale.
45, and then down here.
This here is 1/8 inch scale. This one.
It's 12 feet from the bank?
Yes.
Currently?
Yes.
Or it would be?
From where the, where the railroad ties are, that, where it drops off on the line there.
Mhm.
So the existing wood deck is 12 feet, or the,
No,
with the
proposed one is-
extension?
The proposed one was 12 feet, the existing one is,
14.
14, I would guess. I hope.
no, the existing,
No, we went to this property, there's not 12 feet to the bank from the
it's
Yeah,
deck.
it
about
probably
10
is.
foot 6, and we're going out another 18 inches is what we're hoping to do.
Is that sonotubes, Dick?
Yes.
On the riverside too?
Yes.
And then the farmer's porch, is that a foundation?
No, it's all sonotubes,
Okay.
there's no strip wall foundation or anything.
Is there any way to cantilever the riverside deck?
Why do we go closer to the river?
Yes, I could.
There's no way it's
What's
12
that?
feet.
Because that way, that might get around the getting
No, I mean,
closer
it's
to
like
the
Keep
river.
the same dimensions and then go to the front.
Right, you don't need to be close to the water.
Pat brought up an interesting point. I could put the sonotube post on the same line that they are at the edge of the existing deck, and if it could cantilever out the 18 inches. Don't know.
Well, that would be better, because
Much better.
we're all
We're all
looking
saying
at
the
each
same
other
thing.
going,
The only problem we have is
"Getting
moving
2
closer to the
feet closer
river.
to the river."
Right.
So-
Yeah, if you keep your piers in the same, you're not
Yep.
increasing the footprint
Yep, we
then.
can do that.
And,
We can do that easily. Just
The rest of
10
it
foot-
seemed fine as far as
Right.
I could
Right.
see, and I think we've all been there.
Yep,
Yes.
it's just
Yeah,
good,
good.
yeah. you just don't like going
And
to
we've
the
got
river.
gutters on the new roofs for
Drainage.
drainage
Yeah.
to the right.
That's already been done, but you're
Well,
talking
this
over
is
the
a-
farmer's
this-
porch too,
Over the
right?
farmer's porch,
We'll do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Driveway staying gravel, driveway
It's
staying.
gravel, yeah, we're not changing any of that.
Right. So if
The
we,
deck's just in pretty tough shape, it's all
Yeah.
pressure treated wood, all.
replacing it isn't the issue, it's
Right,
it's moving
it's the-
closer
it
to
was
the
the
river
extra-
that really
right.
we trying not to do.
But we'll do the structural work at the same line that the structural posts are.
yeah, get some siltation control up when you're digging for those piers, just in
Yes.
case we get any rain or.
These would all be in the conditions, right?
And the ones that are there now, oh, that's right, you're extending them. I was gonna say that you can't reuse the ones that are there because, you're coming toward the driveway and there's nothing
Well, on the
there now.
front, I have to do the new work.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what the condition of the ones there,
Yeah.
what they really are, you know,
Yeah.
how deep they are, or, but where I am replacing the deck, I might be able to. And obviously, we don't,
Yeah.
I
It's
just
a-
have to
yeah.
investigate it.
Yeah.
I did some other work on the house, and this became, the issue for this. It had all the lattice around it, so where the deck was gonna be built and continued, I just assumed that we were gonna replace them all.
Yeah, as long as there's
We're
silt.
contemplating using those diamond piers.
Yes, you discussed.
Yeah, Brian Maxwell, the contractor, was in there with these.
Right.
The way I do it with my structural engineer, when I go to do the plans, I like to make sure that if I had to, I could do the sonotubes. Because if you go to put these in and you hit a boulder 18 inches in the ground, how do you drill the rods in?
Right.
So, I'd rather ask for permission this way, and if
Right.
this can work out, it's less obstructive.
Right.
But I don't know that I want to ask for permission for that, and then have to come back and go, oh, we have to dig in, put in
So
sonotubes.
one or
because
the
of some
other.
site-
So one or the other is what you like?
I want to ask permission to do the, yeah.
The most invasive process.
Yes, right.
Perfect.
Piers,
The
yeah.
piers versus- yeah.
Right.
So there's no, oh, that's not what you told us. And
Yeah.
if I could use these, because these are $100 a piece, and
Yeah.
when they're as easy as they say. And part of my situation too is the porch has wind loading and stuff, so I still have to have my engineer do the calculations as to whether I can use them in the corner. So I'm asking for the sonotubes, it's a
Pat?
Yeah, I think if it's cantilevered, it's not getting close to the river. There were a couple of things, DEP called us, and there's a couple of issues around filling out of the application and payment of fees. Because it's talking about a buffer zone impact where it's a barrier beach, it's a dune, it's also riverfront area. Riverfront area is actually a different fee than, you know, so that,
So we can,
yeah, we can work that out, but if we're gonna, vote to approve something like this, we need to get the fees straight in. DEP really is assuming that what comes into them is 100% accurate, and if it doesn't mention this, they think it's out in the field somewhere. They may not
So we
even
can't
know.
close this then, right?
Well, if we can
get a
get an
final number?
agreement. We didn't get?
Look on the file, I don't know.
I saw something on the schedule that I thought it had an asterisk that.
2510 sound like a new number?
Yeah.
Okay, you have a
Oh,
phone?
we have a file number.
2510.
Well, I would like it if you could close the hearing, and then whatever I have to do, we can immediately take care of.
Yeah, because we wouldn't be issuing the conditions yet.
Right.
Okay, if you're good with closing it,
Yeah,
We're good with those conditions we mentioned.
yep,
So it's the existing pilings, the gutters for the farmer's porch, the foundation no closer to the river, in other words, cantilever, the driveway stays pervious, and the DEP fees are,
and the existing filings, existing location of the pilots.
Right.
Rather,
Right.
right, yeah.
Right.
Along that existing,
that
no
sounds
closing
good.
it, yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Not changing the
replace that
footprint.
with existing pilings.
And then these things are
In the
pretty
same
simple,
location.
but it does involve a fee and,
Yeah, we can take
checking
care of
off the
that.
boxes
I'll
and-
Kelly come back.
okay.
Okay, I have a motion to close with the aforementioned
Conditions.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Glad you're able to make it. We didn't know how to,
We didn't know what we were gonna do.
We
continue
were
after that.
in a quandary. Okay.
.308 Central Ave?
That may just be a discussion. This is the house at the V
Right.
at Cliff and Central.
Correct.
And this property owner has more than his share of stones out there. And in the past, the town moved the height of the pile down so that there was not a dangerous intersection issue. So
Better
you could see
visibility.
around it.
Right.
And so now, the property owner said, gee, I have a way I can get rid of these stones, I can sell them or I can do, I said, well, we'd like to keep all the stones on Hammerock Beach area. You really can't take them off. He goes, well, will town be willing to help me out on this? So I think I've sent you some emails that have gone back and forth, and he's saying, I'd like to work with the town, and the town is saying, yeah, we'd like to sit down with you, so that's where we are on that one. So-
Okay. Right, and if the town will let him use that access there or whatever, it's no different than any of the people on the beach that are cleaning their driveways.
And he also said that in the winter, he'd be glad to have his yard be the storage area. If we do plow and he doesn't mind them being there.
Well, it
As
already
long as they
is.
take
It
it
already
away.
is.
Exactly. But he'd be willing to do it happily, But then the
He
town
wants them taken away.
could help him out in the spring, so that's what we
Doesn't
are.
seem unreasonable.
Yeah, so he's gonna have another meeting coming up.
Okay.
So, okay. Where are we now?
214 Central.
214 Central, those were the large boulders.
Right.
We met with he didn't come to the last meeting, but we met with him twice, and they've been removed.
They have. That's good news.
He was very
Yeah,
cooperative.
Contrite and agreeable.
Yep, he
Yeah.
did exactly what he said he was gonna do.
Okay. 181 Edward Foster.
oh, okay. Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you? Hi, Tim White, 181 Edward Foster Road.
How are you tonight, Tim?
I'm good.
Down past Chilmark.
I was gonna say, this isn't
Down
Chilmark,
past,
is he?
no.
No.
No, I'm the last one on the left. Pretty much me, then the Atlantic Ocean.
What's up?
Well, I got a note that I had pumped out some of the water in front of my house.
No. Did you?
Yes.
Okay. So what are we gonna do about it?
Well, this is.
I can't put it back.
This is an issue of, there's a long history with this property where you have the ocean, you have the beach, but then you have freshwater wetland in this front yard, which has really been wet. And Mr. White has planted stuff there, and it's been really wet, and they've failed. A lot of the plants have failed. So there was talk about coming in, maybe excavating and creating some kind of freshwater pond there. Because it's a wetland area and you can't fill it, and so we're not at the point where we're talking that, but, when I went by, it was being pumped, so you're not allowed to drain a wetland, so it was being pumped onto another resource area, so that triggered a violation letter, and I invited him in to talk with us, and we need to figure out what to do.
So I'm a contractor in the city, and I had literally just assembled this trash pump on a trailer for a job, and the puddle was there, and the pump was there, and I did it. There's no excuse.
What's that saying, when opportunity meets preparedness?
Exactly. It does kind of lead to another problem that we are having, that we walked the lot with Patrick. It's a large piece of property, right? It's a lot of acreage. And over the years, there's been a significant amount of development around the property and added a fair amount of hard surface. The O'Brien's house got much larger. The elevation changed on the property next door. There's now 2 3-story houses behind it. Recently, ZBA just approved another one to go in the corner, where Mr. Marabito's cottages are. There's a concrete retaining wall there now. There's a elevated parking area there now. And in the last 14 years, what seems to be happening is more and more rainwater is draining. We're the lowest point on that side of the cliff, and it simply has nowhere to go. And now, to make matters a little bit more complicated, we're now seeing water surge over the seawall at Michaud's on the other side. But again, because we're the lowest point, it all just flows. The long-term problem with this is now the uplands behind the house and underneath the house, which is a crawl space, are no longer draining when it's a high wet season. And the house is retaining water underneath it. So we're gonna have a long-term rot, structural mold problem with the house. And it just, every year, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And, this year, when I pumped it, and I shouldn't have, there was probably a good 18 inches of standing water in the yard, right there. And as the Phragmites, we've abated the Phragmites, the depression gets a little deeper, it holds a little bit more water every year, a little bit more flows in there, which again is okay, but we can't, the rest of the house isn't draining. So one of the things we talked about and would like to do is put a freshwater pond there. We now have ducks that live there, we have snow owl that lives there. We'd like to continue that, we'd like to continue planting there. And so, I don't know if this is the proper venue to be talking about what the long-term plan could be.
I had a question about the pumping. If you had water in your foundation area, and that's outside of the wetland, I think people are okay with somebody pumping it. It would be, where could you pump it to? You can't start the pumping from a wetland at all, and then you can't pump onto a beach. But we're not trying to prevent people from protecting their property by taking water that is either in your cellar, your crawl space, or whatever, and getting that removed.
Yeah, so I was pumping the water to get the water out so that it would drain. The rest of the property would drain back down. If you went down there now, there's still standing water there right now.
Yeah.
As soon as I read the reg that you attached, I realized that I was in violation. It was pretty clear.
So what would the process be of creating a pond?
Well, you could file a notice of intent to do that. It would have to be one of those things, is this gonna work, or is this gonna become a Phragmites pond, like, down off of the Musquashkett area, something like that. It sounds like you'd need to have someone with the expertise that could say, yeah, we could get this to work.
You're a builder, right?
For us.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, for us, the wetland plants failed, so this would be something that might work, so, I think we'd be willing to look at that. I'm sure DEP has specific regulations around it that we could look at. But, you could have a pond with vegetation around the edge. It wouldn't just be like a, koi pond or something. It would be.
Oh, no. Our intent would be to do vegetation around the edge.
Right.
And, because now all it sort of happens now, nothing really grows, and it just turns boggy and muddy, and, it would, and we think it would be a benefit to the property too.
Yeah, and the Phragmites was removed well. First, that's
Thank you, a lot of work.
an example of, the only one I can think of where it's gone, so.
So it would be in order to put together a plan.
So I think that when Patrick and Mr. Snow came out, we're willing to do that if it seems like it's something that might be looked favorably upon. I didn't really want to go through all the engineering and all, and then find out that it was, there was a inherent reason not to do it.
Is there any reason you know of right now that would?
No, I definitely would want to make a call into DEP on that. I mean, from our local regs, it's a wetland, it's just a different type of wetland. The first one didn't work, let's look at something else. But,
Okay.
I'm sure there's someone at DEP that's a creative pond expert or something. We can-
It does, the concern that we see, though, is that, the development happens outside of our area, but it definitely affects us over time, right? And the more hard surface that goes up, the more it flows, and the projects don't fall under stormwater management plans, because they're not so many, there's not that much square footage, or, and each one is handled individually, and they pass muster individually, but at the end of the day, we're at the tip of the spear. I mean, there's nowhere else for the water to go, and it just essentially traps itself there. Years ago, there was a clay pipe drainage system there that has long since failed, collapsed. But you can tell where years ago it used to run out through what I call the shingle beach there, and probably drained at some point in time on its own. But it is becoming a tad problematic, we think, at the end of the day. Now, we could, I suppose, put a sump pump system in the basement and pump it into the resource zone, but that, to me, doesn't seem like that's the way you want it. We'd actually prefer if it just all continued to drain naturally to the best of its ability.
What about the other side of the property up by the Noah building? Is there an area up there where some kind of dry well system could be, or?
Well, there's a septic system up there right now that we haven't tied into the street yet. We recently came to an agreement with a development next door that will allow us to do that. That would free up that area. We could potentially do it up there. I think years ago when the house was built, I know, they put a French drain around the foundation down below that drained water towards the front of the property, but as that water table rises, now it's just flowing back up into the front drain. On around when you came out, when that storm was there was probably 6 inches of standing water inside the crawl space. And that's obviously gonna be a long-term problem.
Well, I think it's worth pursuing,
Okay.
at least in principle.
So you're gonna talk to Pat, and you're gonna call DEP and see if they have any
Yeah.
thoughts
And
about the
then if
issue?
there's some engineer that would, look at temporary water solutions for you there too. I mean, I understand what you're saying, everything does go into that area.
Yeah,
We
it
don't wanna
goes-
prevent people from, protecting that property.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is stand there. And every year, every year something else up the hill gets built, right? And it's all hard surface coming down the road, the driveway's a hard surface. People, grades around the property get changed, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse.
It's hard to drown blueberry bushes, but they were all drowned. Yeah, we were out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And it's funny though, by August, it'll be dry, you can play tennis out there. But in the spring, it's pretty wet.
Well, we can try to put something
All
together.
right.
Okay.
In principle, go for it.
Yeah, and if it's not a pond, maybe there's some other solution other than, a wet lawn with a foot of water in it too. If the pond won't work, because there may be some issues with saltwater intrusion or something. There could be something that may prevent it, but.
Okay. All right, so we'll look into it and I'll give you a call.
Okay.
All right, great.
Thanks for coming in, we
Anything
really
else?
appreciate it.
No problem, thank you.
Pat, what's next?
Okay, we have a gentleman from Whitcomb Pines. How are you?
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm Dave Novus. I live at 18 Whitcomb Pines. And I'm a naturalist by nature and truly committed to the welfare of our environment. And when I moved in there in July last year, I had no intention or thought about the woods other than they were nice. But as I lived there, I realized that there was a thicket of pine trees, young pine trees that are stems about that big around, and they're loaded with them. And they were so filled in there that as I got in there a little bit, I realized that there were a hell of a lot of them that were dead because they were so closely planted that they couldn't survive. And they never would survive because you can't have trees planted this far apart and expect them to grow. So I did remove some dead trees. I did some pruning to allow a little bit more air, but I was completely ignorant of the situation that existed regarding you people, which is why I'm here now. So in the meantime, though, in the fall, I did try to reach Michael Breen. Went to his office 3 times, never caught him there. I called him a couple times, left messages, never was able to connect with him. In an effort to offer myself as a volunteer to help betterment of the forest, for the town and for people. And that's why I'm here now, because that would be what my desire would be. I enjoy working in the woods. We moved from Hingham, and we had a not a large lot, but we had a mini estate that Alice and I put in by ourselves. We didn't have any outside contractors. We were on the garden tour 4 times of the last 4 tours, and we really have done a wonderful job in the woods, and that's where we're coming from.
Pat, explain for us exactly what the violation is and what
And
has
there
to
may
be
be
done.
ways we can use David's
Yeah, I
skills
was-
around the town, but
I was
this-
getting there.
Right, but the call came in that there may have been cutting done on town-owned property, and it turns out the town forest backs up to the wall right behind David's condo, and the cutting was done on there. It's in the care and custody of conservation, so this land. So cutting on town property is one issue. There's also, there's a lot of underbrush that has habitat value and holds soils together and everything around the pine. And that's kind of cleared out, and it's also created a visual, so the dog walking area is visible to the apartments in that area, to the condos in that area now. So there are a couple of different things that, people the goal was to have a shield there to not see it. So, so I think the intent was to clear it up and maybe make a healthier tree population, but it's really a monoculture of thin white pines right now, and there was a little bit of a better mix before, and then there's also the view at the back. So, I think we can solve this without a lot of pain, but I think it is a restricted area. You can't do any cutting on town property.
Right.
And there may need to be some replanting done there. But, and then in the course of the conversation, the intent was to help it out a bit, and the idea that, that everybody walks a dog in there, nobody picks up after it. So we're talking about, there are ways that maybe we could help that area of the forest. I hadn't even been out there before, but it's a mess with nobody's picking up after the dogs, and so that's where we are.
Use some signs threatening
So
people.
do we need to replant some of this area or not?
Yeah, I would think so. I think, before it would go to town council, I think, we have custody of the land. Town council it's usually a fine and a replanting, and, I think if we manage the land and we come up with ideas what might be a healthy planting for that area, that might solve everything. And
Would you be willing to partake in that? Yeah.
Quite frankly, I think there was very little cleared out of there.
Right.
Even though it appears most everything was in there was dead.
Yep.
I mean, it was just dead, and the trees continue to die now.
Yep.
It's like the farmer saying that if I plant my corn crop every 12 inches, I get so much. If I plant my corn every 8 inches, I'll get that much more.
Doesn't always work.
Doesn't work that way. You actually get less. So, I think that I saw it before, you only saw it after. There was very little taken out of there, and the growth that was in there was very little taken out.
It's hard to tell because it was gone when I got there.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and you know, it's interesting because the area to the left of us, Patty Conway, that's all that.
Pepper bush and.
Pepper bush, yeah. Behind us was all these little pines. Behind the next condo was open, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was lovely. It
Lots
was
of
just
trees.
open and looked like healthy woods.
Well, it would seem to me that we can probably put together something with you that would help replace what you cut.
Sure.
That has to be done. And then I'm very interested that you have an open mind about helping with the forest, and I would think this would be a man that Frank Snow wants to know in the worst way.
Yeah. Yeah. I also checked on the tree warden, and there's been a guy who's been tree warden, I forget his name now, for the town for a long time, and he, on public lands, would probably be the person we would talk to about recommending what goes in there, and you guys might know, Carol might know him too. George Story? Story, okay. And as far as I know in Public Works, he is still the acting tree warden for the town, so I may wanna start with him and get some ideas, but there were some abutters that were talking about coming. I don't know if anybody here is an abutter to the project, okay, if they would like to speak.
Be pleased if you want to have a question or comment.
No, I have no animosity to what Mr. Novus's yard looks like. He's a beautiful gardener. But we are directly impacted by the clearing. I can now see every dog walker. We moved there with the full intent of living in the middle of the forest, and I don't live anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It just became a privacy issue where we could not see, any of the walkers or anybody walking through that path, which was put up by our developer, as part of his.
Oh, it was?
Mitigation. Mr. Livingston was asked to put that up, and, for the use of the townspeople, and we never saw anybody before, and unfortunately now that we can. So when you mentioned the replanting, that's something we would really much appreciate.
May I ask that you just, for the record, identify yourselves?
Richard Lambert, 14 Alexander Place.
And I'm Patricia Lambert, 14 Alexander Place.
Thank you, and we certainly appreciate the comments, but, and thank you for being here. Anything else you need to add?
I think we can work something out.
I think we can, but,
So you're gonna get in touch with the tree warden and see
Yeah.
what he has to say? and-
We'll pick something that's not invasive and not, gonna die on us, something that will fill in the area and provide some habitat.
and hopefully be healthy.
I've said enough.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Appreciate you coming.
I will hear from you. Will I communicate with you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you. All right.
We've got an order of conditions, but no DEP file, so we can't sign off on it, correct? And Mr. Bjorklund, are you gonna be long or short?
You've got 30 seconds.
We have some people,
long.
we have some people on time constraints.
There's no Bruins game on tonight. There is a Red Sox game though.
They'll
All my
lose.
kids are at it.
They'll lose.
I'm not there.
That's where my grandchildren were last night, so.
We are, Steve Bjorklund for the record. I am one of the developers out at Evangeline Drive, Tilden Estates, off of Elm Street. And this is a project that I think some of you guys were on the board when it was approved, I believe.
Maybe him, he'd be the only one.
Might have been, yeah, actually, you're right. Paul might have been the only one that was here when it was approved. We have a detention basin that has a berm along the back of it that is between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer. And the basin was actually designed originally completely outside the 100-foot buffer. And through the design process, we were actually asked to put it back further down the hill and move it to the 50-foot line. So we start at 50 and come back uphill from there. And that was actually constructed, and the berm along the back of it was put in, and it was vegetated at the time with all grasses. and it's very stable right now. Everything is working fine. It's a great basin. It's huge. It certainly has held every rain event that we've had out there. But through the design process on the subdivision, a couple of the lots that are adjacent to the basin on either side and the back of the basin on the original plans, we did showed some regrading so that we could create this berm and some backyards on the houses. And we had John Zimmer, who was our botanist at the time, propose some plantings to go in that area. So the original plan had 3 big clouded areas on it. And we left it kind of open, but we said this is what we're gonna put for plants in each of these 3 clouded areas. And there were specific plants that were gonna be installed in each of those 3 areas. The issue that we have out there, which is not just us that's having a problem, but I think it's everywhere now that I've been talking to people about it for the last week. We actually ordered all these plants, and there's about 240 plants that are gonna end up going in. Plants, smaller plant shrubs, and some trees in the area. And unfortunately, in talking to one of the landscape architects that's working on some of the houses up there last weekend, she was pointing out to me the vegetation in the front yards of the homes that are there and how all the plants are dying. And it's rather unusual, but the deer are eating everything that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the day, they come right out and they're eating so much as cedar trees and holly trees, which they can't digest. And I don't know why they're eating them other than there's nothing left in the forest for them to eat. I did talk to Frank. I ran into him and he said, gee, you really should show this one picture. It's not at our site, but, and I'll show you 2 pictures of exactly what I was talking to Frank about. He says, this will give you the best example of what's happening with the deer in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
I talked to a number of the local landscapers that do a lot of work in Scituate, as well as a couple of the Kennedy Country Gardens and the Blooming Place in regards to what are they doing as far as the deer. We've probably got, I want to take a guess, and I think we have about somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000 worth of deer food that we're going to be putting out there next week. I'm afraid if we put all this vegetation on the back of that berm, it could very well be gone the next day.
Mhm.
That's how bad the deer are taking over out there.
Mhm.
Not to mention the fact that we've got probably 30 kids in the development, and the deer are actually up in the front yard in front of the houses, and the kids are up doing somersaults in the lawn areas where the deer are walking right through. So, hopefully none of them come down with Lyme disease, but we're having a tremendous issue with deer out there. And I know it's not just this site.
What do you want us to do?
I'm kind of looking for a little bit of help here. I wish I was here at the last meeting, because unfortunately, the plants were all ordered 2 days ago. We couldn't stop the ordering because this is our final phase of getting the subdivision finished. I just don't know what to say to the commission as far as planting the back of that basin area. Like I said, the stuff may just be gone. I don't know whether they can restock it and I can modify the condition. Right now, it's all grassed. The front of the basin and the back of the basin, and the grass is doing great because the deer aren't eating it. They're just walking across it to get up to the plants that are at the houses and eating the plants at the houses. I'm afraid if we give them the appetizer on the way,
They'll eat more.
they're gonna wipe all the plants out here, and then when those are gone, they're gonna go up to the houses and eat the rest of the stuff up at the houses.
So is this an order of conditions that exists for the development?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
And there's a couple areas where there's regrading behind a couple of the houses, which I don't have as much of an issue, I guess, planting those areas because it's visual. The embankments on one side are done. The embankment on the other side is under construction right now, so that's actually not going to be planted until the house is finished. So there's a little bit of work left to do on that. My main area of concern is just the back of the basin itself. The trees that we've got to put in can't go on the berm because of the root system, so they're being planted at the bottom of the berm, which is what was called for. but these smaller plants that are gonna be on the back of the basin, one, you can't see them from anywhere. Because visually, you're on the back side of this berm that's probably 5 feet high if you're standing behind it, but it's way away from where the house area is. This is the back side of the basin.
So you need something that changes the order of conditions, and you need something to do with the plants.
I'm just wondering whether we can maybe not plant just the berm area and just do the two ends and leave the grass there. And unfortunately, we're really pressed time-wise because the landscaper's gonna be there on Wednesday putting the plants in. And we've ordered them, but I hate to go dig them all in, and then it just becomes an immediate problem if they eat them the next day. I mean, I got 200 dead plants out there, and can't keep the deer out of there. I mean, I've fenced the entire development to keep the deer out of there, and it's a problem for the residents as well, but they may be able to go spray some of that deer off stuff, I guess, on them, but you gotta spray it like every couple of weeks. And, you know, I mean, we're supposed to watch these
The gentleman
plants.
that was just here before, they do that where they are, and they were telling us the other day, and it works, but they have to keep doing it.
It's probably a small area.
Yeah.
Did the
It is a small area.
residents in this community purchase the property with the expectation of having that area planted?
Yeah, they don't care because you can't see it. Again, it's on the back side of the berm, if you knew where it was. I mean, the
So
closest,
what was the purpose of the plantings in the first place?
it was just mitigation. I mean, we were,
No.
No, I mean, yeah, without the plan in front of me, I'm sure that's what it was
Yeah.
for. If we require plantings,
But it's
it's
not
usually.
soil retention or?
no, actually, if you think about it, when you're building a dike like that to hold back water on any type of a reservoir or anything like that, you plant it with grass, you don't plant trees and things on the dike.
Right.
But unfortunately, and again, because of my involvement with the commission at the time, I could not be in the hearing process to go through and go through this, you know, the stuff.
So how much is this planting worth that's coming Wednesday? Next Wednesday, how much, rough numbers?
The total of the planting in there, like I said, I wanna say it may be 10 grand. Because all the street trees are included in part of it, but the street trees, our overall number of landscaping, all I know is the overall number, I don't know what the breakdown is. Our overall number, I think, to have the area planted is like $24,000, but that includes the street trees. What we've done is we've actually changed the street trees, which have nothing to do with conservation, they have to do with planning, but now we're putting in multiple species of street trees up in the front, and it's my understanding that they're probably a little bit larger than what was originally planned in the area. So there may be a little bit better vegetation up in the front of these houses. I just wanna make you aware of, I mean, I guess if we have to plant them, it doesn't matter. If we have to plant them, I guess that's fine. But I just want to make the commission aware that they might be gone the day after we plant them.
Got it. Pat?
Well, I was just gonna say that, mitigation was probably required for a reason, and, I don't think we can waive it and say, grass may work good, but, there's a mitigation because of some development, offset that you were allowed to do.
Well, I think we offered it. I mean, again, this particular development is an open space development, and we kept all the lots outside the 50-foot buffer, and we donated 4 extra acres of land to the town, which was not included in the development. So there's definitely things that we did as developers at the time to, provide benefits for the town in order to allow this type of thing. And I would say, again, I wasn't in the hearing process itself, but I think John Zimmer probably just said, well, if we put, we throw all these plants out there on the back, that'd be a good thing. And at the time, there were no houses out there, so we weren't aware of how bad this deer problem is.
Yeah, I had suggested to Steve, maybe Kennedy's or somebody would have some plants that are working better in the deer area. And if that could be one way. And somebody else suggested, go down beyond the top of the room, down on the base, and higher plants that maybe they can't even reach. I mean, that might be a possibility,
Yeah, well, they can reach these.
I don't think I showed you the picture.
They-
Hold
they
that up.
just
This
can't
is
reach the
back. You gotta
tops.
look at it.
Well, saplings, that are, 8 feet up or something, but.
I mean, those are 12-foot cedar trees right there, and they'll be dead shortly because the whole bottom of it is completely gone.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants you to plant something that's gonna get eaten tomorrow, but I think there's a trade-off of, you required this, we can't waive it, what else can we do? you know, what else can you do?
Yeah, and my problem is I'm just pressed for time. I mean, I can't go and give back all the plants that we've ordered and then try and get the landscaper to come back out with other plants, and so I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place, but I just want to make the commission aware of this
If they
problem.
get planted, they may be
before-
gone.
Before it happens, rather than come in afterwards and Pat's saying, gee, all your stuff is gone, what happened?
Right.
This is a problem.
Yes.
There's no doubt it's a problem, and we may not have a solution
We may not.
for this, but it's gonna be an ongoing thing for other areas as well, as the deer start to take over, like there. Carol herself, her own yard is.
No, it's gonna
she's
get
losing-
worse, because
she's
then we
losing
got,
stuff.
we got a large percent of this population doesn't want hunting anywhere. And there's,
And replication areas will be the worst, because you've got more expensive plants that are going in replication areas, and it costs a lot more to put them in there. And you've gotta maintain those for a 2-year time frame, and it's gonna become a problem, not just for us, but for everyone that's out there. And, you know, again, I don't know whether I can just say to them, you know, just take all the small plants back, let us put the trees at the base. I mean, if they eat the trees, they eat the trees. I don't, you know, I'm not sure exactly what the species is of trees. that's
I don't
coming
think
in
we
there.
have a solution, Steve.
Did you check with the different trees that deer absolutely won't eat?
Hollies?
They do eat them.
They
No.
don't eat them, they can't digest the leaves. How are they doing at your house, Carol? They're eating the hollies.
That's
There's
what I'm
no
saying, they do eat 'em.
food in the forest because the winter was so bad, so they're eating cedar trees, which they don't eat. They're eating holly trees that they can't digest. They're eating anything that they can get their mouths on right now. And this is what I've been told by landscapers and down at Kennedy. As soon as I left here, I went to Kennedy Country Gardens and talked to Chris down there. I said, "Chris, what can I do?" And he said, "They're eating everything." He said, "That it doesn't," he says, "You're not the only one walking in the door, you know, asking the question." And I said, "No, but I'm probably the only one that's spending, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars on something that just might be senseless. It's not, we're not doing it because it's gonna make the basin look any better. We're just putting them at the back of the basin, just."
Well, the only thing I would suggest is if you can get some of them taken back, and then at some later point, if you can try again, but otherwise, I don't know what else we can offer. Do you?
No, I mean, if there were if this is happening everywhere, you'd think they'd try to come up with the plant that's the least likely to be eaten and start stocking those in areas like Scituate, you know, so.
I don't know, Steve.
Cause, I
It's all
mean,
of eastern Mass. I mean, it's just,
Oh, I know.
they're just, the deer are taking over, and it's gonna get worse. And again, my conversation I had with Frankie, you're all aware, he's a hunter, and, you know, he kind of understands the whole deer thing, and he said, we've been seeing this happening for, you know, year after year, it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Oh, they're starving.
And what's gonna happen is, until they get a disease, they will take over and eat everything.
But the
And then once they
population
come up
is
with some
just
disease, they'll all
exploding,
start
yeah.
dying off.
Because we've killed the predators that prey on the deer.
If we could bring the wolves back, we'd be all set. Kids might not be doing so good, but, you know, we'd be
Or
getting rid
dogs
of,
and cats.
getting rid of the deer.
We're glad to know it, but I just don't have a solution, and I don't know that anybody does.
I mean, you.
Catch and relocate and take them, send them to China.
I don't know whether we can put, you know, less of just less of the small plants in there and, you know, watch the other ones get eaten. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's gonna cost us to give them back to the nursery. That's the problem, is I was hoping to get this resolved before, but the timing is just killing me here.
Some people have tried combinations of flowers, because we had the same problem too. And I had a woman come out to the house, because we had a 2-acre lot, and she put together a plan for me to plant, and I actually planted different flowers around, and it was, they found the trees appealing, but they found the plants offensive and didn't get past the plants, and they actually,
You can ask Carol, but I don't think so.
I mean, and they actually stopped eating boxwoods, and they love boxwoods.
Oh, they love the boxwoods that are up here,
Yeah,
that's for sure.
boxwoods are one of their favorite trees, but once we started putting that up, they even stopped, and then they went someplace else. So, I mean, it did work.
Would John Zimmer be able to recommend?
You know, and I actually, we started to use Brad Holmes on a lot of the projects that that we've come in with since this, and I had a conversation with Brad, and I don't know whether it was Pat might have been you that said to me, you know, do you have a plan B? I mean, what happens if you come in and the commission says, we'll work with you, try something? And the only thing that Brad had mentioned was he said that what would happen if you ended up putting in these small culls, which are, they're less money, but you could put more of them in, and they're smaller, so the deer may be apt to more pass them by, but there might be a more high likelihood of survival if you have more of those in.
Is this an area that people have to be able to pass through?
No.
Because like a barberry, you know?
What's a cull?
I mean, they don't
Just a
like to
small-
walk
a
through
small,
things that would prick them.
Very, very small plant.
So
You put in
if you
basically-
planted something
It's like a rod
like
in the ground, it's like
that,
planting seagrass.
they may
You
not.
put a little cull in, and they're just small pieces, rather than, you know, digging all these holes in the back of this basin wall and putting plants that have, you know, that are coming out of tubs and, you know. I mean, there's a lot of holes we're digging in the back of the basin. And maybe it's just a lesson learned that, you know, if somebody comes in the future, that you probably should just have grass around these basins. And, I mean, even if it's a buffer zone. I mean, I think if I come back into the commission to present another project, I've learned something on this one.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sad that I wasn't able to be part of the process,
Yeah.
you know, at the time. But
there's a
if other
woods-
people come in, I think you guys should at least, you know, hopefully maybe take this as a lesson that let's just grass the back of these things and
Yeah.
maybe get plantings somewhere else, you know, other than the actual basin itself. And other than that, the basin is working
Beautiful.
fine. It's doing
Well, that's
exactly
good.
what it's supposed to do. I think it's one of the best ones that we've done in town, and we've done a bunch of them.
A lot of times they're looking for a buffer behind the basin if there's a budding property or a house.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
gave
you
you
got
guys
woods.
acres and acres of open space behind it, so
Right.
no one's ever gonna see any of these plants that are gonna go in at all. It just, if I could have you say, I don't need it on the condition, just, you know, wipe it out,
do
that's
that.
one thing, but
Can't-
I
Can't
think
do
we're
that.
gonna be stuck putting them in, and again, I pre-apologize, but I think they're gonna be gone. We'll do whatever the orders requires us to do. I mean,
Okay.
I think that's what we have anyways.
And then
You know, had we had an extra month.
I hope you come back and say, I was afraid that they were gonna be gone, and they aren't gone. I'd like to see that happen.
I would love to, and it would be, you know, it's good for everybody. I mean, maybe it's good, if the birds are gonna go in there and use some of these shrubs and things we're putting in, which I'm assuming that's what John's got in there, that's great for the bird population, and I think that might have been his intent. Hopefully, the birds are faster than the deer, and they might get something out of it, but I guess I'm just kind of prepping you guys for what I think might be happening out here, and
Two things that we had success with was barberry and forsythia.
And I don't know if those are on Forsythia's not on the list, I know that. And again, some of this stuff has to do with the root system, because it can't have a large root system if it's going on that dike. Because if we weaken the dike,
Forsythia wood.
we certainly
Oh,
don't want
okay.
to lose the
Okay.
back of that. If we would, that's why I say, if these were in another area, if somebody was coming in with mitigation and they were doing a basin, and you
Yeah.
said, you know what? Don't worry about the back of the berm. Put the mitigation somewhere where you're in undisturbed soil or something like that. And you're actually creating one of these berms that is designed to hold back thousands and thousands of pounds of water, you know, that's inside the basin. We just shouldn't be weakening the basin for the sake of having some plants in there. I think that's, again, even though the designers at the time, that's what they chose, I think that might not be the best choice. I think from a commission standpoint, there may be a better way to look at them, I think, in the future.
Fence.
Got it.
Well, you know, we used to put some fences around some of the basins. I mean, I don't know if you've been out to this project or not. The thing is 2 acres. I mean, it's enormous. It's the biggest one we've ever done. So I think it's the biggest one in town. And it works fine, but, you know, I think it's a lot of overkill for what we've got out there. It'll certainly handle the drainage in any storm I could have ever imagined we're gonna have there.
Okay. All right. I wish we could give you a better answer, but I think we
Yeah,
gotta do
and I
it.
didn't know what to expect when I came in. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was
Aware.
of the situation, so that they're not screaming at me for saying, why'd you go and do that?
At least it's not a replication area where you get the 2 years you have to go back and plant them.
I have a replication area in Norwell, and you can't step on the site without stepping in deer droppings. So I may have to fence that whole thing for 2 years, take the fence out, and it'll be gone in 2 years and 2 days. And that, again, is probably $15,000 worth of plants.
Yeah.
And I'd rather buy apples than throw them to the deer. I mean, we're achieving the same thing without even digging the ground up. and the deer will eat just as well. But something, something's gonna have to happen, I think, eventually with, with the deer population. So I appreciate the time, and
No
I just
problem.
wanted to kind of bring you up to speed with it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for making that call, to.
Oh, not a problem.
Thanks.
Anything else before, what else do we have to do?
You have to continue evening school.
We have to continue Inley School, yes.
Yes.
Motion to continue Inley School to,
What do they want? We don't know what they want, do
We
they?
don't know what they want.
I thought,
Oh,
we
we-
thought they were gonna be here tonight, so we
Yeah.
obviously
So
don't know what they want.
next meeting, and hopefully
Yeah,
we'll hear
yeah.
from
Yeah.
them.
Okey-dokey, until
The
May 21st at 7:40.
second, and well, we can't vote on it anyway.
No, but that's fine.
The
Yeah.
other
I'm
one
gonna do
was
it.
50.
Oh, yeah, he was.
And
Dick
What
thought
else,
he was
Carol, anything?
Oh, he was?
Motion closed.
on- I thought he
Oh,
was on
good.
8.
Motion to adjourn, and we can't vote on it anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
Second.